One thing, that this is God's way of telling you that your hopes, your purpose in life is yet to be fulfilled. And like one of our leaders or our role models, Lupita Nyoko, said that your dreams are valid. Well, this morning we are glad to see you fine and healthy, and glad that you have tuned in to KBC Channel 1. This is where we give you information that can keep you informed, entertained, and aware about what's going on in and around you. A warm welcome to you. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Aguko. We are broadcasting live from the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation here in Nairobi. It is the 1st of July 2020. We are also live on our social media platforms and on our website at www.kbc.co.ke. Hoping that you shall be with us from now till the tail end of this morning conversation. We have a lot in store for you together with my colleagues. On my end of the discussion this morning, we shall be talking about women in leadership on the viewpoint. Well, it is a fact, according to the Women Deliver, which is a global agency that champions gender equality and the health and the rights of girls and women, gender inequality in political leadership in Kenya currently stands at 23.5% across government bodies. We lag behind our East African counterparts. How best can we change this? This morning I shall be hosting Charlotte Mariam Akinyi, who is the founder of Hope Avenue and also an aspirant in one of our constituencies in the coastal region known as Msambweni constituency. How is women leadership in the country? Stick around for that.
Good morning once again. It's glad to have you on board. I'm Regina Manyara, and now good news, especially for betting funds, is that it appears that the government has relaxed its, its amended laws on the issue of taxing. 20% tax demand has been shelved. Then this might see the return of the proverbial Mac or Phoenix, that is sports betting. What do you think about this? Remember, we are live when we encourage your feedback. Tell us where it is that you're watching this live broadcast from. And also, other than just focusing on the issue of the Finance Bill 2020, where is the BBI headed? Remember, yesterday the question was, the referendum road, what President Uhuru Kenyatta and his ally, leader of ODM, Raila Odinga, have in store for Kenyans as both leaders work at ensuring that they have the right numbers to push the BBI instead of having to go around town and having county assemblies endorse the particular policy framework. That and so much more coming up in the headlines.
Well, good morning to you, and this Wednesday morning we bring back traffic in studio again. So this morning our focus on matters traffic will be at what will be happening at the Pangani-Thika Superhighway intersection, given the fact that it is one of those good alternative routes, especially for those that apply Thika Road as you head over to the city center. So this morning we try and look at how that specific place will be doing in terms of traffic. We look at the kind of gridlock that will be there, and also possibly try to look for any other extra alternative routes, given the fact that it's already a good alternative route, especially as we head over to the city center. So that's going to be our focus this morning on matters traffic. Many thanks for making time. My name is Doreen Arange.
At Doreen Arange, at Ray Manyara, at Aguko, at Jane Wamboye, and at KBC Channel 1 are our social media platforms that you shall use to tag us. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. As always, we value your feedback. Now, in the headlines, starts now. Let's take a look at what's happening both locally, nationally, and internationally. With the front page of the Standard newspaper, starting from this page, remember we shall have a copy of the Daily Nation, the People's Daily, and the Star. The front page of the Standard is all about matters BBI. The new BBI army. Exit Haji team. Now that is a splash there, the new BBI army. As the Building Bridges team yesterday prepared to exit the scene, legislators drawn from both houses of parliament are rolling up their sleeves in anticipation of the big task of delivering on the Uhuru Raila agenda. And this now squarely falls on the shoulders of the select few. We have images, pictures there of different leaders in the country. The next steps highlighted there, we have 4. Winding up, the Building Bridges team wound up its operations yesterday and indicated its readiness to pass on the baton. Step number 2, executive decision. President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga to receive report, which they are expected to peruse and give direction. Number 3, enter Parliament. Report should eventually find its way to Parliament, where MPs are expected to scrutinize proposals and distill the issues. Number 4, goal referendum. Plan to build consensus as much as possible to avoid a protracted referendum with the Senate set to kick off process. The new BBI army. Now, let's open the page and get to read more about this issue on BBI. Remember, this has been the subject of debate for quite a long time. Now, in the headline there, men and women who will now shoulder weight on BBI report. The flow of the Building Bridges initiative tide drifted towards Parliament yesterday after the Yusuf Haji-led committee announced the completion of its assignment to President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Now, with President Kenyatta and Odinga said to have briefly touched the base on the next steps for their legacy report, or the legacy project rather, the focus now shifts to 15 legislators who have the enormous task of determining how the handshake dream will be realized. Picture there, you have images there of the National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimunya, who was addressing the media after the Jubilee Parliamentary Group meeting at KICC in Nairobi on June the 22nd. The BBI task force says it's ready to hand over to the President its final report, which will eventually find its way to Parliament for passage of key recommendation. Men and women who will now shoulder weight on the BBI report.
Well, and still on matters BBI, looks like we've retreated back to the BBI politics that had been overtaken by COVID-19 and how the numerous cases of that specific virus was really spreading here in the country. But now it looks like we're slowly back to BBI, and still on the People's Daily this morning, there's also a similar story on the Building Bridges Initiative. Report ready and it awaits presentation to the President, where the BBI Steering Committee has concluded its work and now awaits that presentation, that to be presented to the President amid confusion as its mandate collapsed yesterday. Although some of the 14-member committee had already told the press they are seeking more time because they said the report is far from ready. The Secretariat had also sent in a statement to newsrooms yesterday afternoon saying that the report is already is now ready to submit that report to the President. We also have the image of a major retired, that is John Say, who is a member of the BBI Initiative Steering Committee. But also it's important for me to mention to our viewers that the President and the opposition chief, that is Raila Odinga, they had also appointed a technical team comprising of 30 members to help in the steering committee, and this is just to fine-tune the report and advise on its implementation. So which way BBI? Have we really gone back to that, the BBI politics?
Now, still keeping up with the issues of the BBI at a time when, we are seeing different factions either allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta and the opposition, and also, the former premier there, head of ODM, Raila Odinga, and somewhat a whipping of those who seemed to be allied to Deputy President William Ruto. Now, as the BBI conversation goes on, is that a section, or rather some keen observers believe that this current, purge targeting lawmakers could be an indicator that the state is keen on pushing the proposals through Parliament. At the same time, is that Ruto allies see a silver lining in the BBI report. Now, after months of threatening to derail the Building Bridges initiative, Deputy President William Ruto's allies now say they are ready to support the proposal to expand the executive because it could benefit him in 2022. Question is, The BBI report is what is in store for Wanjiko in the BBI report. Now, quoted there is one leader who happens to be allied to Deputy President William Ruto, quoted, there is a KO South MP, Daniel Rono. They said they're interested in the benefits that the report will have for Kenyans, but warned that they will oppose it if it is aimed at benefiting only the handshake duo. Further, as Team Tanga Tanga, we have no problem with the creation of many positions. However, either the presidency or the PM's, that's the Prime Minister's seat, must be elective. If the PM is being voted by MPs, that office cannot be powerful or try to compete with the president. The DP is okay with that, with what will be unveiled. It is his wish to manage the country with like-minded leaders. Quoted there on that particular story that the Tanga Tanga team has changed its tune to support the expanded executive. How about to get more details, sounds and pictures as prepared by our reporter Safin Almochen.
Just before the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, the political scene had witnessed increased activity as debate over the Building Bridges initiative took center stage. At the time, the Yusuf Haji-led BBI task force was also conducting a series of BBI validation hearings. But now, curtains on the committee's mandate have fallen after expiry of its mandate on Tuesday. In a statement to newsrooms, the Yusuf Haji-led committee expressed confidence in its final work, noting that it was able to receive proposals from a myriad of stakeholders, including citizens, civil society, faith-based organizations, cultural leaders, the private sector and experts. Through these consultations, the task force says it is now in a position to advise the state accordingly on the proposed administrative, policy, statutory and constitutional changes that may be necessary for the implementation. Amid expectation on the committee's recommendations, pundits hold the view that the success of the task force depends on how well it has executed its mandate.
I would judge the steering committee on the basis of, whether they did a good job in terms of giving people an opportunity to speak on that report and give feedback. I would also judge them on the basis of when eventually they bring out what they've been doing, whether it contains sufficient mechanisms for implementation of the recommendations that people would then have validated in that report.
But with widespread talks over a possible push to have the proposals pushed through Parliament and not through a popular initiative, analyst Joseph Simeha says this can only happen if the contents of the final report eliminate issues that demand a popular initiative.
If the report comes out and they've dropped all those recommendations, then perhaps it may be that the parliamentary option is open, the parliamentary route is open. But if they've not dropped those options from the task force report, and we still expect changes in or amendments in the structure of governance, for example, then the constitution dictates which way to go, and that would have to be to go to the people.
This narrative especially appears fueled by a recent purge of leadership in political parties and House committees, a move that Simeha terms as not surprising.
If this expected referendum that we are talking about and BBI reforms as such a top agenda of President Kenyatta and such a top agenda of Raila Odinga and other political leaders, I expect they would whip their parties to support. They would do everything, including whipping, to support. So in that context, yes, I wouldn't be surprised if that is one of the reasons, or the reason, why all this whipping is going on.
The Building Bridges initiative is centered on addressing issues such as ethnic antagonism, lack of national ethos, inclusivity, devolution, divisive elections, security, corruption, shared prosperity and responsibility. In the opinion of Simeha, any proposal that will provide solutions to what ails the country's leadership and governance must be considered a win for Kenyans. He also argues that it may be imprudent to wish away the Building Bridges initiative before exploring the options it presents in seeking to address issues that have for long threatened the country.
It is up to the people of Kenya to determine how BBI initiative will end. So I would say look at this as an opportunity, seize it as citizens, and determine the best way to ensure that the nation gains.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Acheng Oma.
All right, a very big thank you to Safin for that report. Now let's head over to Jackie Ombiru's report. Now President Uhuru Kenyatta has lauded the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, the NMS, for its efforts in regenerating Nairobi. Now speaking after receiving a status report yesterday on the progress made by the Major General Mohammed Badi-led team after being in office for 100 days, President Kenyatta said the progress was commendable, but there was still much work to be done. Now, the NMS has been tasked with reaching all of the informal settlements across the city with this program. Now, the president said NMS must ensure Nairobi residents live in dignity and have access to affordable housing. He said that the ongoing slum upgrading and renewal project under the Mukuru Informal Settlements Renewable Program would be a test case on how affordable housing can be implemented across the capital. President says the outfit's success after 100 days in office shows a new Nairobi is possible. Uhuru lauds Badi team's work.
Hashtag Uhuru Kenyatta is trending, or hashtag President Uhuru Kenyatta is trending on Twitter from yesterday. Actually, Uhuru fixing the nation is trending. There was a lot of hullabaloo, well, especially when the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, we had even activists going on and saying that this is the militarization of Nairobi. Now, it seems that the president is fully backing that particular baby of sorts that is the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, saying that efforts have shown that indeed that outfit is improving service delivery in Nairobi County. 85% of workspace within the CBD, people come here every morning and depart every evening. If you've been driving through CBD, you've seen a few changes in different streets, Kenyatta Avenue, Kimathi Street and all that stuff. You're seeing so much is changing. We're having walkways and we're having places that would rather reserved for parking and ate up into the roads within just the CBD being transformed. Is this a sign that things are panning out from the Nairobi Metropolitan Services? That's a question, or rather we'll say time will tell. Now, Wambiru delved into a report, prepared a report, just looking at so far what the Nairobi Metropolitan Service has done, and as well as how this then will jumpstart or support post-COVID national recovery.
On 18th March 2020, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services was commissioned by President Uhuru Kenyatta in efforts aimed at enhancing service provision in the areas of waste collection and disposal, water and sanitation, housing and urban development, transport and public works. The Nairobi Metropolitan Services was tasked with various roles that were to be achieved within 100 days that lapsed 2 days ago. And upon completion, President Uhuru Kenyatta has commended the work put in by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services in enhancing service delivery within Nairobi County.
Progress has been made in the areas of implementing the Nairobi Urban Mobility Plan, effecting the non-motorized transport strategy, reviewing the development approvals process, improving solid waste management, streamlining urban renewal projects, and reviewing and improving the governance and transparency models deployed in service delivery.
President Kenyatta challenging NMS to make Nairobi the model for post-coronavirus recovery strategy.
Roads are beginning to look cleaner, and we have hundreds of young people, especially those in vulnerable communities in the city, who are today earning a living, and thousands of households are receiving water closer to home. Road infrastructure is beginning to see the much-needed maintenance works, and pedestrian and cyclist corridors in our business districts are beginning to take shape. This is encouraging, but we cannot but emphasize that much work still remains to be done. But what NMS has demonstrated during this period is that the task before us is not impossible. It is indeed achievable.
The head of state pointing out that the National Hygiene Program, dubbed the Kazi Mtaani Initiative, aimed at empowering and creating jobs for youth residing within informal settlements, will play a pivotal role.
Young people from informal settlements of Mathare, Mukuru Kayaba, Mukuru kwa Ruben, Mukuru kwa Jenga, Kibera and Korogosho, amongst others, deployed across various projects in the last 3 months, has shown us that this model is indeed sustainable and will result in life-changing enterprise for our young people.
The president adding that focus must shift to urban development programs that will accelerate an integrated development model for an inclusive and modern city.
I encourage you to refine your annual work plans, budgets, and programs to target cumulative achievement of the development plans.
NMS Director General Mohammed Badi says his agency remains committed and determined to transform Nairobi into a smart city.
Future aspiration in this stride league, Your Excellency, is to make Nairobi a smart city through generation of power using waste garbage. Your Excellency, we are on course in achieving the directives in health sector in efficient management of COVID-19 pandemic, provision of health services, implementing Kazi Mtaani initiative.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
Now, let's head over to the counties in regard specifically to the COVID-19 pandemic by our reporter Beatrice Gatonye-Ngetich. Counties to set up their ICUs. This is what is making headlines this morning. The government has said counties will convert a portion of their 300 isolation beds for critical care, allaying fears of a possible shortage of intensive care units as the country nears peak of COVID-19 pandemic with 6,366 cases so far. Now, counties have up to July, the 10th of July this year, to have 300 isolation beds, each as a requisite for President Kenyatta to reopen the country. Now, peak of coronavirus disease will be in a month's time and will spread to September. Counties to step up their ICUs. But still in regards to what's happening in our counties here, we have the Speaker of the National Assembly, that is Justin Muturi, who has encouraged legislators and their staff to undergo voluntary testing for COVID-19 currently ongoing in Parliament. Now, the Speaker, Justin Muturi, yesterday dismissed reports that 6 MPs had tested positive for the coronavirus, saying that his office was aware of only 2 cases. The Ministry of Health staff have set up camp at Parliament for the whole of this week to test legislators and their staff for COVID-19. Take corona test, Muturi urges MPs.
As it has been clarified by Justice Muturi there. Let me just give you the numbers where we stand as of now. This is for us as a country. In the last 24 hours, we are at this 176 new cases actually have been confirmed. And these are the people that have tested positive, which brings the total number of confirmed cases here in the country since the first case was announced to 6,366, with a total number of tested cases at 169,836, leaving those recoveries to about over 2,000 and the death cases at 148 deaths so far. And as usual, we also have the map of our country there, which has well spelled out the cases and how they have been distributed in different parts of the country, in different counties, just showing us which counties so far have the highest cases and which ones have the lowest cases. That map is there for you. You can check it out and just see which counties have the highest and which ones have the lowest cases. But also there's that similar stories where the National Assembly Speaker has just clarified, and he said this to the press, that only 2 MPs have contracted COVID-19, and this is just doing away with that media report that was saying that 6 lawmakers have been infected. He now says it's not 6, but it is 2 MPs. And he also says that those MPs, in fact, one is actually self-isolating at his home, and this is again contrary to those media claims. So that is what the Speaker of National Assembly is saying there. It's only 2 and not 6 of them.
Still keeping up with COVID-19. Remember, just Kenya had confirmed cases of COVID-19. That is in the month of March. There was a report that was published in one of our dailies that said a huge number, or rather a significant number of parliamentarians had tested positive for the virus. Later on, that particular publication was pulled down, and the media house asked to apologize for erroneously publishing that report. Yesterday, Justice Musturi confirmed that indeed 2 parliamentarians tested positive for COVID-19, while 1 remains in stable condition. Still keeping up on matters COVID-19, but now moving away from Parliament, is that now children can get infected by the virus after all. Now, Dr. Amos said babies can get infected by their mothers when breastfeeding, adding that with adults now spending more time at home, such cases could rise in the coming weeks. But he added that the fatality is likely to be low because they get milder symptoms. Now, explaining why deaths in children are unlikely to be high, the Centers for Disease Control said the risk of serious complications and death rises with age. A fact there from a study that has been carried out is that people with type A blood, do you know your blood group? Maybe that's it, high time you needed to know which blood group you belong to. Now, people with type A blood are at a higher risk of contracting COVID-19 and severe illness, while those with type O have a lower risk. This is according to a new research. Now, the study was done to show whether there is a relationship between blood types and susceptibility to COVID-19, and involved more than 1,610 seriously ill COVID-19 patients in Italy and Spain, 2 of the hardest hit countries. Kenya is currently ranked at position 12 in Africa in as far as COVID cases is concerned, with South Africa being ranking first with 144,264 confirmed cases of COVID-19 with 2,529 deaths, yet 70,614 persons recovered. Those are the statistics in South Africa that has been ranked as, first or position 1 in as far as the ranking of COVID-19 cases in Africa. Kenya, we are at position 12 with 6,366 cases, 148 deaths, 2,039 recoveries. Position 12. Taking you back to Parliament, with all this hullabaloo and a lot of different functions of the country, rather stakeholders calling for the reopening, or rather the easing of measures put in place by government to just stem the spread of COVID-19. 2 parliamentarians are confirmed to be positive, COVID-19 positive, while 1 is seeking and 1 is stable and seeking medical treatment in a Nairobi hospital. As Kenyans await with bated breath as what direction the president is going to take, what then does this portend for our leaders? How about we get a report from Beatrice Gatonye Ngetich.
National Assembly Speaker has confirmed that 2 members of Parliament have contracted COVID-19 and are undergoing treatment. Muturi, however, says the 2 lawmakers are under the care of medics and are in stable condition.
Members of Parliament, just like any other citizens, are susceptible to the disease. From the daily briefings from the Ministry of Health, It is obvious that the cases are rising in the country, and no one is immune when exposed to the virus, not even members of parliament, who also live among the communities.
According to the Speaker, one of the members of parliament is recuperating at home while the other is in hospital.
Following the declaration of the coronavirus as a global pandemic, we took several measures to help in combating the spread of the virus in parliament specifically and in the country in general. Some of these measures include the limitation of the number of members accessing the chamber at any one time, the designation of holding areas for members, the adoption of virtual sittings for committees where applicable, as well as working from home measures for members of staff.
In the meantime, some members of the clergy have raised concern over the effects of COVID-19 on the economy that has left majority of Kenyans without dependable sources of livelihood. The Migori County Interfaith Network says many businesses have closed down given that there are no suppliers, with a good number losing their jobs as a result of closure of mining companies. The religious leaders, led by their chairman Cornel Pesa of Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, said since the first case of COVID-19 was reported in the country, there has been an increase in crime, police brutality and increased domestic violence.
We are concerned that there has been an increase of brutality from the police, petty theft, an increase of domestic violence. There has also been an increase of immorality and drug, alcohol abuse. There has been an increase of culture and low class. There has been increase of extortion at police toll stations around the border points.
Let us clap for.
Elsewhere, as counties continue to work around the clock to create enough isolation wards, Murang'a-based food and beverage processor has launched a 6-bed isolation center to manage employees and mitigate the spread of the deadly virus. The isolation center will be used as a holding facility before the suspected patients are referred to the government facilities in either Murang'a or Kiambu counties for further treatment.
We need to get ready for this thing. And as I always say, a pandemic does not discriminate who is private, who is public. We are in this together. It's a war that we all must join hands and fight it together.
Matters COVID-19 to that report by the Human Rights Commission, where the state security agency's top human rights violation, top human rights violation, and then now the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, that is the KNCHR findings have revealed that state security agencies top in human rights violations, which has now resulted in 10 deaths and 87 torture cases in the last 3 months. This is since the first case of COVID-19 was announced in the country. The commission, the commission just in Kenya is actually the commission in a report dubbed "Pain and Pandemic: Unmasking the State of Human Rights in Kenya in Containment of COVID-19" has recorded 222 complaints, and these are now ranging from civil, political, economic, and social rights. Again, this is just, in the couple of the past 3 months since the first case was announced here in the country of COVID-19. So they're also saying that we have seen a surge in the violation of human rights. This is actually during this coronavirus period, and unfortunately, also what they're saying is that unfortunately, government security agencies are leading in breaking that law. So in as much as, yes, they're talking about the complaints ranging from civil, political, economic, and even social rights against, human beings, they are saying that this specific thing actually is they're saying that the government security agencies are the ones that are leading in this breaking of this law. And that, just begs to ask the question that if these government agencies are the ones who are supposed to be protecting us, then how does it come that they're the ones leading when it comes to breaking of this law?
Up with that particular report, it has been ably captured by the Daily Nation this morning on the main back page story there, dubbed or rather titled "A New Report Reveals Gross Violation of Rights in Enforcement of Virus Rules." Quoted there is Eric Dahanas of the EU, says, "We believe that all human rights are universal whether one has COVID or not." Now, just highlighting in that particular report, On education, the report notes that while some pupils in private schools may have access to educational materials online, a big number of those in informal settlements was lagging behind. Secondly, even though the government has issued a moratorium on evictions during the pandemic, the report notes that the country experienced a high number of demolitions during the period under review in Ruai and Kariobangi. Caroline Kamau has more details in regard to that particular report by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights.
The report released titled Pain and Pandemic, Unmasking the State of Human Rights in Kenya in Containment of the COVID-19 Pandemic, sought to show the adherence of human rights even as the country adjusted to the new normal. Between 1st March and 6th June this year, KNCHR received 222 complaints. The report, citing police brutality, is a major challenge facing Kenyans, with a recorded 91 complaints against the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government. Out of this, 54 were against the Kenya Police Service, 23 against Administration Police, and 8 against the General Service Unit.
From our documentation, we realized that these rights were actually violated, where we recorded 10 cases of death caused by the police during the enforcement of the various prevention and control measures, but also 87 cases of torture that were perpetuated on members of the public in the process of enforcing the various directives. And our verdict also was that some of the law enforcement officers, they used excessive force that was also arbitrary and that was unjustified.
The Commission are now working with partners, especially the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, in investigating and ensuring justice for victims, while lauding efforts established by government through the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development and Public Broadcaster, KBC, to air educational programs for both primary and secondary students. Accessibility of educational materials for children in public schools and marginalized areas, it says, remains an issue of concern.
We laud the government in terms of coming up with alternative modes of studies for our children during this pandemic period and knowing that they are at home. But we also note that this system is not accessible to all learners due to various parameters. For instance, social status, we have had technological issues, geographical challenges, other challenges including perennial floods in various parts of our nation has really disproportionately left a substantive number of children.
On housing, the Commission received concerns from citizens on the need for rental subsidies, besides faulting evictions that have taken place in areas where individuals have settled on government-owned land. The Commission holds that while the government may have legitimate reasons throwing citizens out in the cold in the middle of a pandemic, and lockdown could provide a rich breeding ground for the spread of COVID-19.
We all know the effect that it has in terms of the risk of contracting the virus, but also that it disproportionately targets and impacts women. We saw women being raped during the evictions in Kariobangi, persons with disability, children. So we really reiterate what has been an express recommendation from the United Nations to ourselves, calling on the government on suspension of all forms of eviction during this pandemic.
Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 News.
Thank you very much, Caroline Kamau, for that report. Now let's head over to the courts. Let's head over to the scales of justice. Now, a grave mistake by the prosecution not to swear a witness has given a lifeline to 2 rugby players jailed 15 years for rape. Now, Justice Grace Ngenye quashed the conviction against Alex Olaba and Frank Wanyama and ordered for a retrial after finding that one of the witnesses who testified against them leading to the sentence was not sworn. Now, Olaba and Wanyama to be released from prison to and taken to Kilimani Police Station, where they will be processed and charged afresh on July the 7th. High Court finds that a prosecution witness was not sworn before she gave her testimony. Lifeline for 2 rugby players jailed for rape.
What is happening in the corridors of justice? Quite a powerful header there on the Star this morning. How MP Gachagua received 5.7 billion. This is according to Asset Recovery Agency that has frozen 3 accounts to facilitate investigations. Further on, they're pictured there is KRA's managers' unexplained wealth. Properties spread across posh Mombasa estates and Nairobi were a stark contrast to Gikonyo's 119,000 monthly salary. Still on matters of justice is the family of murdered Naivasha kids cry for help to bury the victims. Just to give you a small overview over that issue, we have the family seeks to help bury 4 children strangled by the mother. Now, they say that the burial is scheduled for tomorrow at the family home in Kinangop, Nyandarua. And the request came a day after the suspect, Beatrice Mwende, 42, was arraigned in a Naivasha court and detained for 7 more days to allow the police to conclude their investigations. This is one of the developing stories that we're keenly focusing on, and we'll give you details then and as when they happen. Crossing over to the issue of, a KRA officer charged with tax evasion. Now, the couple was yesterday released on a 5 million bail each. The defense lawyer, Ismail Abbas, said it was not clear why his clients were charged when they had already paid 20 million in taxes and the payments acknowledged by KRA. And on Monday, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission said they have been investigating allegations that Gikonyo had unexplained wealth and failure to pay taxes. The former manager has filed a case at the Anti-Corruption Court seeking to forfeit 457,059 that is alleged. That's around, in real, let me just convert that for you. That's around 600 million he's alleged to have acquired. Now, still keeping up with matters justice is that drama ensued as the EACC detectives raided Sonko's Upper Hill office. Now, the agency is probing how the governor acquired a 500 million land belonging to Kenya Railways. That is also just a sneak peek of what is happening. The scales of justice is captured by one of the dailies that happens to be the Star this morning, highlighting those stories. Then there's a very sad story here, and it made headlines some few months ago, when life was normal and people could still hang out in, nightclubs. The shooting of DJ Evolve by none other than Embakasi East MP Babu Owino. Now, as the victim awaits justice, while life goes on, that is what the Daily Nation has captured there. And DJ Evolve, who popularly known as DJ Evolve, that is Felix Orinda, he's still trying to get justice 6 months, and it has not been an easy journey for him. Now, on social media, the MP took down anyone who attempted to remind him of the shooting. Some of the developing stories on what is happening in the corridors of justice. But Serafina Robi has more details on what transpired yesterday at the courts.
Kenya Revenue Authority Customs Department Manager Joseph Gikonyo and wife Lucy Kangai appeared in court on Tuesday morning, seeking bail after they were arrested for fraudulently evading tax amounting to about 38 million shillings. Appearing before Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi, the defense team led by lawyer Abbas Esmail, while seeking bail, argued that the case was being criminalized.
And Your Honor, what is important, Your Honor, you will note that that figure of 38,692,694 appears as an assessment under the Tax Procedures Act 2015.
The accused were released on a cash bail of 5 million shillings with an alternative bond of 10 million shillings, with the court ordering them to deposit their passports.
Each accused shall deposit a cash bail of Kenya shillings 5 million and the alternative bond of Kenya shillings 10 million for the short-like amount, and also deposit their passports in the court.
The prosecution was granted 7 days to present evidence, even as the defense team sought to have the pretrial heard by a different magistrate. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission conducted investigations into allegations of possession of unexplained wealth by the two, identifying 20 clearing agents who are said to have acted for various importers and exporters and allegedly parted with bribes to have their containers released. Meanwhile, two former rugby players will face fresh trial after the High Court quashed a ruling that handed them a 15-year sentence for rape. Alex Alaba and Frank Wanyama will now have a second chance to prove their innocence after the court questioned the legality of evidence produced by one of the witnesses in the case. The two were convicted of gang raping a woman on February 10th, 2018. Well, this comes as a number of courts here at the Milimani Law Court in Nairobi continue to open up though in a slow pace due to the COVID-19 that continues to wreak havoc across the globe, while the judges, the magistrates and the people appearing at the courts adhering to the health regulations that have been put due to the COVID-19 pandemic, just to ensure that the scales of justice do not come to a standstill. Reporting for Scales of Justice from the Milimani Law Court here in Nairobi, I'm Serafina Robi.
Thank you very much, Serafina. Now, Muslim leaders have rejected the Reproductive Health Bill, which provides that all individuals should attain and be able to make informed decisions on sexual and reproductive health. Now, the Muslim clerics also say that the bill left room for misuse of the right to life law and by presuming that a pregnancy may be terminated if there is substantial risk that the fetus may suffer from severe physical and mental abnormality that is, and I quote, incompatible with life outside the womb, end of quote. Clerics cite moral, legal, and religious concerns in the proposed law. Now remember, the leaders say it provides blanket reproductive rights to everybody. Muslim leaders reject reproductive health bill.
About, just legislation and such, is that yesterday there was a lot of drama and it was captured on various media houses as well on the social media platform. The debacle that took place at the courts. Chief Justice David Maraga has called on investigative agencies to probe documents adduced by a woman who claims he sired a child with her. Maraga says, I have no child with the woman. Now, yesterday, Mary Kwamboka caused a spectacle at the Milimani Law Courts, shouting that Maraga had refused to pay for her 6-year-old daughter's upkeep. Through the lawyer Dunstan Omari, who led a team of lawyers, said she deliberately dramatized the issue at the Milimani Law Court while the police watched. They said applicant did start with a lot of drama at the protection of the state contrary to COVID-19 regulations. She put up so much drama that it is all on social media. That is according to David Maraga's lawyer there, Dunstan Omari. He confirmed that the woman indeed filed a case before the Children's Court and was given a case number CC 48/2020 with Maraga named as the defendant. That continues. We'll be keenly focusing, or rather watching that particular space at a time when, Kenyans are already watching to see how the executive arm and judiciary are going to proceed on, given the current tensions that we've seen with the Chief Justice there accusing the executive of deliberately delaying to just pass a few policies that would help service delivery, along, or rather within the judiciary. 41 people yet to be sworn in, or rather approved. And Justice Maraga says even the monies that allocated, budgetary allocations to the judiciary, have been slashed, and this could very well affect how judiciary conducts its business. Still talking about policy and policy frameworks going forward, the controversial reproductive health bill. Muslims added their voice yesterday, captured by reporter Farah.
While Nakuru Senator Susan Kihika, who is the drafter of the Reproductive Healthcare Bill 2019, maintains the proposed law seeks to provide for the right to reproductive healthcare and set standards for reproductive health, opponents of the bill argues that it is open to abuse. The Muslim community say the proposed law is a contravention of the Constitution and instead want Article 26, subsection 4, repealed to provide for a definite direction.
Conscious of the backdrop of the recently released contentious findings on teenage pregnancies across the country, having considered the bill comprehensively, do hereby totally reject the Reproductive Health Care Bill 2019.
The group also calling for the shelving of the National Adolescent Sexual and Reproductive Health Policy. The Muslim leadership is now calling on the government to re-engage religious and all other stakeholders and come up with a fresh policy that is both religious-friendly and cognizant of our cultural values.
It takes parents, religious institutions, teachers and the entire community to bring up a well-adjusted and morally upright children, young adults.
The Reproductive Healthcare Bill 2019 has elicited varied debates with religious leaders poking holes on its contents. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News from the Jamia Mosque, Nairobi.
Now that Bruce Carper, you take a short break, but when we return, we still focus on items that we deem newsworthy, and to keep you updated, including what is happening on our major roads this morning. We take a short break. We'll be right back.
Next on.
Ngoja niulize jamaa, nani hapa hivi amepimwa hivi majuzi?
Pale kwa Mwangi, si ni 10 bob.
Sijasema kupimwa wei. Saa hizi kupimwa HIV ni haraka na ni bure.
The entertainment and creative industry is facing significant disruption from the COVID-19 outbreak. Theaters have been closed, production schedules altered, events cancelled, yet demand for online content such as streaming and gaming has surged as people stay home. So how are producers engaging their consumers differently?
Kukuwa na HIV si eti ni mwisho. Wewe uko nayo? Mimi nilishapima.
Afya bora, maisha bora. Jipime, jiinue. On the next episode of
Tena usiniite. Hamna tofauti. Wasikia? Tena sikiza wewe mwanamke, ulipokuwa ukifanya haya mambo yote, hukujua dhara zake. Muangalie. Mwanamke.
Jamani. Wajua Linda ametoroka wewe. Ametoroka?
Mwenda wapi na?
Hayakuhusu.
Haba usiseme kitu.
Hata usiseme.
Kiona nijiseme.
Tujeni kazi zenu
pereka huko. Unajua ni wewe tumetoa hapa ushamba juzi.
Basi tafutani mwingine mmuta uzaba. Wewe digidhia wewe.
Najua jambo lako wewe kulala in a mental hospital should have been the first thing on your CV.
Unadhani hiyo bedroom kuachwa wazi liko kimakosa? Kwani kitaka kwani unajua? Nini haswa mnapanga na Chris?
Basi nenda kumwambia Joel. Hakuna mahali hapa duniani mimi siwezi kufika. Mwambie. Ala, come on.
Sikufaulu.
Shut up!
Now we continue with In the Headlines. Welcome back. Remember, as always, we appreciate your feedback, especially when it comes to what the news making stories and in our discussions that we shall be having this morning. On Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and all our social media platforms, we are live. So head over to those platforms there, and you can also be able to follow up this program from the comfort of your own specific location. Remember to give us your feedback using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter at KBC Channel 1, at Ray Manyara, at Doreen Narange, at Ram Aguko, and at Jane Wambui. We shall be sampling your feedback as we continue with this morning conversation. But moving on within the headlines, let's take a look at what's happening in the counties. And I would like to start with the Nyeri County, where we have Wambugu wants Kositany out of Jubilee. Nyeri Town Member of Parliament Gujiri Wambugu has called for immediate removal of Jubilee Deputy Secretary General Caleb Kositany from leadership for what he termed as attempt to tarnish the ruling party. Speaking at his office in Nyeri, Wambugu said Mr. Kositany has been a senior Jubilee official since the party was formed, and his allegations on misuse of funds were political. They said over to Kakamega County. These are politics making headlines. Embattled Senator Cleophas Malala has dared the ANC to formally notify the Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka about the party decision to expel him. Mr. Malala said he is prepared for a possible by-election in case the party bid to kick him out succeeds. The senator, who is one of perceived rebel politicians in the Amani party, warned his party leader, that is Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, to brace for a titanic battle. Malala says he's ready for a mini poll. Let's head over to Machakos County. Transport and Public Works Chief Administrative Secretary of Vinyandeti has rebuffed claims that Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka betrayed the Kamba community by entering a political pact with President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, speaking in Matungulu sub-county while distributing foodstuffs, masks, and sanitizers to locals, Wavinya said that Kalonzo had done nothing wrong in choosing to work with the government on behalf of the community. She says Kalonzo offered to support the president for unity and stability of the country. Wavinya defends Kalonzo move. Now let's touch on, let's head over to Makueni County. And finally, Machakos. Let's head over to Makueni, where we have police. Yesterday, we intercepted a bus carrying 24 passengers, said to have been traveling from Mombasa County against the restriction of movement guidelines. Now, the county commissioner, Mali Mohammed, said that the 24 were heading to various destinations. He said the passengers will be contained at Makindu Kenya Medical Training College Center. Let's head over finally to Machakos County, where we have the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union yesterday ordered the reopening of Shalom Hospital in Athi River. The hospital was temporarily closed following the reported COVID-19 deaths. It was jubilation for more than 100 patients and staff who were placed in quarantine for 3 days. Medics' body says hospital to be reopened.
Coming to Homa Bay County, looks like there's an ongoing feud in that specific county as clans for suspension of health center building that is in Homa Bay County, where the county government has now suspended the construction of 4.2 million health facilities, and this is over disagreements between two local community groups. It just continues to say that construction of the proposed health center was scheduled to kick off this month in North Kaboch Ward in Ndiwa Sub-County, but now the community has suspended it following differences over donation of land. That is in Homa Bay County, where there's an ongoing feud over construction of a health facility. And now coming to Naivasha, slain miners keen call for support to Bari, where they're calling for support from well-wishers as well as the government. And this is just the family of the 4 miners killed by their mother in Naivasha on Saturday is appealing for assistance from members of the public to bury these miners, with the burial slated for Thursday in their home in Muranguru, that is in Kinangop. The family now said that it did not have the financial muscle to give them a decent burial, and so now they're calling out for well-wishers as well as the state to just see how best they can assist them to at least give these miners a good burial. Now, coming to a different county now. This is in Kiambu County, and this is the plight of persons living with disabilities. That is in Kiambu. They call for fund listing, where these persons are now saying, in Kiamba, that is in Kiambu County, they're now urging the government to create a special team to list them for state and humanitarian funding. They decried that since the outbreak of COVID-19, they have not benefited from the government or humanitarian groups' assistances. And now they are calling for government, they're calling for the state to at least assist them. These are the persons living with disabilities. Remember that oftentimes when you talk about PWDs, anytime there's just anytime things are not going well, anytime there's a crisis in a country, oftentimes these are the people that are forgotten. And so now these specific ones in Kiambu County are now calling for the state to at least establish a group that can be able to assist them, since during the pandemic began, they have not been able to get any form of assistance.
Still keeping up with the stories that have been making headlines in the counties is that Wairia and PS backers ignite water war. This is what is happening in the central region, where water projects war between Joseph Wairagu, the water PS, and Muranga Governor Mwangi Wairia was ignited over the weekend, causing bad blood between the supporters. Now, the two occasionally clashed last year after the governor accused the PS of sinking boreholes that unsafe water for residents. The water wars between Nairobi County, or rather the PS, that is the national government, and Mwangi Wairia there, taking center stage in the central region. Now, Kazim Tani's scorecard reveals nepotism, bribery, and ethnicity. Now, these are complaints from Haki Yetu organization. Remember, Kazim Taani was one of, the projects held by government to just help, tackle the issue of youth unemployment. Now, allegations there from Haki Yetu organization says that the Kazim Taani scorecard reveals nepotism, bribery, and ethnicity. Crossing over, rather still keeping up with what is happening in various counties, let's go to Nyanza region, where Governor Ongwae, that is of Kisii, says, or rather he's urging residents of Kisii, to stop stigmatizing persons who have recovered from COVID-19 and accept them back in society. Further on, in Siaya, Siaya prison has appealed for isolation rooms after 13 tested positive for the virus. Now, to the western region is that the leaders were behaving badly, Bungoma budget meeting on Monday turned chaotic in a Kisumu hotel after an MCA and a CEC rained blows on each other over an impeachment motion. Now, the fist fight between Bungoma Health Executive Anthony Walela and Lundani MCA Tony Barasa left the CEC with injuries on his cheeks. Want to find out what happened in the western region, Nyanza region, or rather across different counties? Remember, details on this and so much more are all captured on our website, that is www.co.ke. But in the meantime, we have a detailed report on, what has been transpiring in the counties.
K-Unit Bank Kikuyu branch in Kiambu County. It is business as usual. Bank employees reported to work early, only to encounter an attempted heist at the facility, evidenced by debris from an enormous hole on the wall. According to the police, the suspects who are still at large tried to break into the bank by drilling a hole through the wall of the building, an activity which police suspect has been in the works for some time.
They could not gain entry into the bank. We made efforts to call the manager, and this morning when she came, we opened the bank. It was discovered that there was a hole which was drilled from the bank.
Meanwhile, a group of Boda Boda operators and residents of Kirugoya town took to the streets to protest against County Assembly's war against Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru. Armed with placards, the demonstrators said that many projects were at standstill due to political standoff currently experienced between members of the County Assembly and the county boss.
Hawa viongozi wote, hata ma MCA, hata gavana, sisi ndio tuliwapigia kura. Kwa hivyo ile sauti kubwa iko kwetu. Kwa hivyo sisi kama watu wa Kirinyaga hatutaki mambo ya vita. Tunataka wawache gavana amalize kazi yake, hospitali yenye tunajengewa Kirugoya iishe,
Kwa hivyo hiyo miaka 2 kusikuwe na vita, Waiguru aendelee na ile kazi yake.
Elsewhere, there was drama in Lamu after area woman representative Ruwaida Mohammed stormed a diesel petrol station demanding restoration of power supply at Pate Island. Her move is said to have been prompted by lack of electricity in the island since the early part of the month, amid claims that efforts to have it restored have fell on deaf ears. Finally, a somber mood has engulfed Kilenga village in Lari, Kiambu County after 2 boys lost their lives while trying to save their friend. While expressing their sorrows, the parents said it has been a tough time during this period of COVID-19, trying to warn their kids not to go near the river. The bodies were retrieved by the county government and taken to Upland's funeral home.
Now let's finally touch on what happened in the Senate, and this is in Parliament, where we have some 18 counties from marginalized areas are likely to lose close to 18 billion shillings in the compromise formula for sharing of revenue among the 47 devolved units. Now, the new formula for sharing revenue has given a proportionate consideration to a county's head state and its ability to raise revenue, unlike the current proposal that gave significance to a county's population. Now, the formula, popularly known as Meru Senator Mythical Turi formula, is the new prescription that is expected to ensure that at least 29 counties gain while moderating 18 others which are losing $1 billion each. Now, showdown over divisive revenue sharing formula. But still, remember, in regards to issues regarding money, President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday signed into law the Finance Bill 2020, the Appropriations Bill 2020, and third 2019-2020 supplementary budget. The President's assent to the bill will enable the government finance and the government finance and execute the 3.2 trillion 2020-2021 budget for the 2020-2021 financial year. President signs into law the 3 crucial finance bills.
And still on matters business, it looks like there's a reprieve for lenders there where they at least to get a 6 months grace period, and this is where the KDIC has extended coverage. Grace period, the Kenya Deposit Insurance Corporation, that is the KDIC, has now increased coverage limit in the likely event of bank failure and now given lenders 6 months grace period to pay annual premium. That's why I was saying at least there's a reprieve there for lenders. Now, this was said by the KDIC CEO Mohammed Ahmed, where he said that the increased raft measures are expected to cushion banks from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. This just goes to show you how the pandemic has affected different sectors, and banks being one of them. So at least that's a reprieve there, and that is expected to help protect banks from the adverse effects of this virus.
Still keeping up with matters business is that President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday evening signed into law the 2020-2021 budget and the 2020 finance bill, as well as the 2019-2020 third supplementary budget. Now, the 3.2 trillion shillings 2020-2021 budget contains a 56.6 billion post-COVID-19 economic stimulus package and an allocation of 128.3 billion to the government's Big Four agenda. Now, the 2020 Finance Bill Act also contains several amendments targeted at cushioning Kenyans from the adverse effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Among them, amendments contained in the Act include a zero rating of VAT on maize, cassava and wheat flour for 6 months, and the law also extends zero rating of VAT on cooking gas for a year. Now, the third 2019-2020 supplementary budget of 18.4 billion shillings include a 5 billion shillings allocated to counties for coronavirus response, as well as 3.4 billion earmarked for COVID allowances for frontline health workers. This all happened yesterday evening, and you can find further details in regard to what the president penned yesterday and what this means for the economy. Remember, when the budget presentation was being made, National Cabinet Secretary Okuri Etani emphasized that government is really working at tightening up its expenditure so that it can divert much of its needed resources to just stemming the spread of COVID-19 and also cushioning Kenyans from the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Therein, President Uhuru Kenyatta appended his signature on those crucial bills: the 2020 budget, the 2020 finance bill, and the 2019-2020 third supplementary budget. Details www.co.ke. But you can also have, I think our reporter Ronald Willie put that into perspective yesterday.
Minutes past the top of the hour. Let's see what is happening on our roads in terms of traffic. Let me just begin from the Old Soaps roundabout, or better still, what used to be the Old Soaps roundabout. This is as you come to the city center there. Actually, that is one of those areas that it just connects from Outer Ring Road, as well as also just heading over to Thika Superhighway. So again, becomes one of those instrumental areas, as also becomes one of those busy areas, especially in this early morning hour. I'll be getting to that Pangani intersection in a bit, but just let's begin from there. It looks like it's not bad. Oftentimes expect this area to just be heavy, in fact heavy traffic snarl up, especially in this early morning hour, given the fact that there's quite a number of activities around this specific area. But also this is one of those places where we witness a reconstruction process, and this was to ensure that they reconstruct the overpass, at least reduce on traffic congestion, because as I had mentioned to you earlier, this is one of those busy areas, and also that is why that reconstruction process of ensuring that at least there's an overpass to reduce on traffic congestion was necessary. But then looks like that has been coming along well, and the purpose in which it was the initial purpose of reconstructing, it looks like it's actually serving that purpose, because it was meant to reduce traffic congestion around this space and around this area, and it looks like that is happening well, because I was telling you that this area, or better still, what used to be the Old Soaps roundabout, it comes all the way from Thika Road as well as all the way from Outer Ring Road. So there's just a junction here as you head over to Thika Road, and also just as you head over to Outer Ring Road. And also it's important for me to mention that these are one of those busy highways. Just look at it: Thika Superhighway, Outer Ring highway. So clearly one of those busy roads. But just leaving that area as you head over to the city center, moving at a pretty fast pace. There's barely any traffic gridlock, or even, if I may say, any heavy traffic buildup, just slightly on the inner lanes of that road, especially also as you head over to the city center. That is just where we are experiencing a bit of a traffic snarl. But again, it is usual. We'd normally expect to see heavy traffic, or even just traffic on the lanes that are heading to the city center, because of the obvious reasons like I keep mentioning to you. And so also on the outer lane of that road, and this is interesting because this is actually on that outer lane that is leaving the city center. As you head over to the estates, we are also just seeing traffic there, which is quite interesting, because oftentimes we don't expect to see traffic snarl up on the lanes that are leaving CBD as you head over to the estates in the early morning hour, because then again people are heading to work, to businesses. So obviously where we expect to see traffic is actually the lanes that are leaving the estates as you head over to the city center, just except for roads such as Westlands and Upper Hill, seeing that a number of businesses are on that area. But it looks a bit different on this specific one, because then there's traffic even on the lane that is leaving CBD as you head over to the estates. But even at that, in as much as there's a bit of a traffic snarl up there, but at least it's quite manageable. It's not, that heavy traffic that even might require you to use an alternative route, it's quite manageable. But also, like, you know, many other roads and many major roundabouts where we normally spot traffic police up and early trying to see how best they can do that, I can tell you for sure this is one of those highways or one of those roads where traffic police are also normally stationed just up and early, and especially around this area where it used to be the Allsops roundabout. Also there, the traffic police are normally stationed there trying to see how best they can do that. So ultimately, this could also be the reason as to why we're not seeing that much heavy traffic build-up like we'd expect to see in the early morning hour. But also, as I was mentioning to you, in as much as there's a bit of a traffic on the lane that is leaving city center as you head over to the estates that enjoying Thika Superhighway in this early morning hour just before you get over to the Allsops, what used to be the Allsops roundabout. So in as much as yes, there's a bit of a traffic there, but at least it's quite manageable, and this is what this color is actually indicating. But also it's interesting because the orange color is on both the inner lanes as well as that one outer lane. So again, clear indicator that at least it's quite manageable. So that means also if you're coming from a city center or town, if you may, as you head over to Thika Road, then you may just have to make do just a little bit with the traffic there before you get to Allsops roundabout. But in as much as you may have to make do with that, but at least you'll also be moving at a pretty fast pace because that's quite manageable. Now, coming to, you know, that outer lane as you leave that, you know, that junction, that what used to be that roundabout coming over to the city center, again, gridlock also on the inner lanes, and this is a bit different from what you were saying earlier on as you leave that specific area, because clearly as of now, in fact, it's just at a standstill, moving at a pretty slow pace on some specific parts as you head over to the city center. In other areas, just really moving very slowly. In other areas, it is actually at a standstill. And this is just next to the KCA University area as you head over to the CBD. But also, again, I may need to mention that on this specific area, it is also a bus terminus, so this could also be the reason as to why there's this heavy traffic build up there, and even in some parts moving really slowly, and even in some areas not even moving at all. So that could also be the reason as to why there's, you know, that gridlock there, not moving at all and even moving at a pretty slow pace. But that's just next to KC as you head over to the city center. That's just where there's a bit of that traffic there. And away from that, actually this continues. In fact, wow, it continues all the way past KCA, where the survey bridge is set to be installed there. In fact, the entire area, it's just not moving at all. In fact, also next to drive-in, past the Italy College, coming all the way to the city center, next to the mental hospital, not moving at all. It is at a standstill. Let me just show you again that image. You might be wondering why we are seeing the difference in color. You can clearly see the maroon all through. That is an indicator that traffic is at a standstill, which just shows you that it is not moving at all. So that means you need to make do. You will actually make do with that traffic there, because also just past drive-in, past KCA, as you head over next to our first alternative route, which is what I'm going to show you. That's next to the Pangani intersection. Throughout this entire area, there is no alternative route. So that means you will actually have to make do with that. But at least there's a reprieve there for those that are leaving city center as you head over to the estates that apply Thika Superhighway. There's no traffic at all on that specific lane, moving pretty fast. Nothing happening there, just on some slight specific areas where there's a bit of a snarl up, but even at that, it's quite manageable. So where there's really heavy gridlock, I can tell you really heavy because it's not moving at all, it's where you are leaving the estates that apply Thika Superhighway as you head over to the city center, and this is just past the KCA, next to drive-in, next to Utali, coming all the way to the city center, not moving at all. But let me look at that alternative route. But before I get to do that, I'm also seeing the same situation next to Muthaiga. Also clearly not moving at all, really just at a standstill, and even in some specific area moving at a pretty slow pace. So this morning looks like really there's quite a number of activities along Thika Superhighway. But also remember that Thika Road is one of those busy roads. When you look at the number of estates along Thika Road. They're really quite numerous. And also the number of businesses. Look at the number of companies, the number of business centers, areas that are just bus terminals, also quite a number of them. And this is also one of the reasons as to normally there's heavy traffic gridlock, especially in this early morning hour. So in as much as, yes, it's one of those busy roads, but also the kind of amenities and the kind of activities along this road are also quite a number of them. But let me look at that alternative route which I had promised you earlier to try and see at least if we can get a positive, info for people that are using Thika Road as you come to the city center, because the traffic there this morning, wow, it's really quite unbearable. But when I tell you unbearable, it's because it's not even moving at all, just at a standstill. But let's look at that alternative route. This is just at the Pangani intersection. Remember that this intersection branches over to, heading over to Tunga Road, also coming from Juja Road as you head over to the city center. It is actually one of those routes that is normally used by people that ply Juja Road, obviously, because that is just where it branches off as you head over to the CBD. And also it's one of those alternative routes used by those that ply Thika Road. So again, becomes one of those instrumental intersections. But it's not looking so bad. So that means, let me just tell you, that means if you're coming from Thika Road and you are past Muthaiga, then at least it's a bit of a good news for you, because then you don't have to go all the way through, using Thika Road as you head over to the city center, because also sometimes there's normally that heavy traffic build up around the Sai area and even Gara area. So that means you can use this intersection as you come to the CBD. This is the Pangani intersection where you will connect to Juja Road coming all the way to the city center. So you can use this as a good alternative route because there's barely any traffic. In fact, just where there's a bit of a traffic is actually the lane that is leaving CBD as you head over to that intersection. I'm heading over to Thika Road and even Juja Road. But actually on the other lane that is leading you to the CBD, there's no traffic at all, moving pretty fast. So at least a reprieve there for those that ply Thika Road or even Juja Road as you come to the city center. Like I mentioned to you, this is one of those busy intersections given the kind of also amenities there. There's the Pangani police station, Pangani Girls, also a number of businesses, especially for those small-scale business traders. So again, it becomes one of those busy roads. But I want us to wrap traffic this morning, at least just a bit of reprieve there for those that are using Thika Road as you come over to the city center. At least probably we'll try to look for other alternative routes if at all there could be any. But as of now, that's that in terms of traffic this morning. Our focus being on what has been happening around Juja Road. Actually, what has been happening around Thika Superhighway as you head over to that intersection, which is what we were looking at. So clearly that's that in terms of traffic this morning. We take a break. I believe we take a break. But before we take that break, let me just, Ram, I believe you're ready for our next interview of the day.
All right. Yes, I am. And let's shift gears into the next discussion of the day. Remember, the hashtag, as always, is Good Morning Kenya. We're live on our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and on our website at www.kbc.co.ke. My name is Ram Aguko. If at all you're joining us, this is Good Morning Kenya. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya, at Ram Aguko, at Jane Omboy, at Doreen Arange, at Ray Manyara, and at KBC Channel 1. This morning on The Viewpoint, we shall be discussing women in leadership. And according to Women Deliver, which is a global agency that champions gender equality and the health and rights of girls and women, gender inequality in political leadership in Kenya currently stands at 23.5% across government bodies. Now, what this means is that we lag behind in especially in our East African counterparts, comparing Kenya and each and every country that is covered in East Africa. Well, this morning we shall be. I am joined by Charlotte Mariam. She is the founder of Hope Avenue and also an aspirant. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
It's a pleasure for you to find time to join me this morning. Remember, as always, the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. But remember, comments given during this broadcast do not reflect the stand of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Now, Charlotte, let's start with, first of all, finding out about the space of women in leadership, right? So currently, if you look at the nation as we stand so far, how far are we as a nation when it comes to embracing and recognizing women in leadership?
Thank you very much, Ram, for having me here today. Yes. When we're talking about the space of women in leadership today, we have to look at where we're coming from, where we are today, and what the future looks like. For example, I will take a specific, drawing a comparative synopsis of, for example, the elective posts that we've had in the past. For example, since the 2010 Constitution and where we are at now. We know that we had a 29% increase of women candidates who are competing in 2017 compared to what we had in 2013. That means that women are trying to fight for that space that the society may be deemed that maybe belongs to a certain particular gender, that is the male gender. So women are coming out, we have a space right now, and we are fighting for it, and we're raising our voices. Na tutafika pale.
But it has not been an easy journey.
It has not been an easy journey.
Comparing how it was in 2017 and how it was back in 2013, you would say that we are progressing.
We are progressing because, Ram, for example, in 2013, we saw that we had more women maybe in these seats that were nominated. And then, for example, in 2018, out of the nominated people that were nominated in this parliamentary seats, 14 of them vied and actually won the seats. So that tells you that given the chance, given the right resources, we can get there.
We can get there.
We can get
there. All right. And even as we talk about this, I would like you to tell us what you think from home. Remember, women have been also accused of going against each other. Remember, even as we talk about women in leadership, there have been accusations of women not standing in solidarity for one another. Remember, in the previous turn of events, in regards to the impeachment of Governor Anne Waiguru, the governor of Kirinyaga, in that impeachment process, there have been claims that this had an issue to do with gender. That gender could have been having a role to play when it comes to her impeachment. Is this the case? Look at Governor Charity Ngilu. Also, her impeachment is also there. We value your feedback. Tell us what you think. Are women united? Or is it that we are not supporting our women? Do they have a place? Do they have a role? The hashtag, Good Morning Kenya, at Aguko, at KBC Channel 1, at Jane Omboy, at Ray Manyara. And as always, we are live. So, Charlotte,
yes.
Picking it up from where you left, I'm aware that you're the founder of Hope Avenue.
Absolutely.
So what is this all about? What is Hope Avenue all about? And what's the motivation behind Hope Avenue?
The Hope Avenue is a movement that seeks to motivate, to inspire, to transform, to bring a message of hope and love to all. Okay? Hope Avenue was inspired by actually my late sister, who was the only sister apparently that I had. She was younger than me, but looking at the kind of engagements she had in the society, I said, wow. So it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what you're doing at that particular moment. You can impact the society positively. So I remember they had a movement called Sunshine. They used to go to hospitals to talk to patients in their sick beds, to give them a message of hope, to motivate them, to speak life into them. And they also used to maybe visit children's homes and what have you. So that is what actually inspired the Hope movement. I said, I have to leave her legacy.
Your sister's legacy.
My sister's legacy.
And looking at what she was doing, your sister, picking it up from where you took it from in her legacy down to Hope Avenue. How has been the impact on the ground and the reception that you've been receiving from the people?
Before I come to that, my sister was the major factor that really motivated me into the Hope Avenue. Another person that really motivated me is the Sonko Rescue Team. Looking at what Sonko has been doing, impacting the society positively, and the service to humanity. So those are two factors that really pushed me. So coming back to your question, the impact has been good. And really, I was able to identify the gap, the already existing gap, that it's not about giving food to the hungry. It's not about paying school fees for the less privileged students. It's about also motivating these people, speaking life to these people, and serving as a role model.
The intangible impact that you're making. The
intangible impact. Sometimes people don't need money. Sometimes people just need you to speak life into them, to give them that hope, to show them that love, and to serve as a good role model. You know, growing up really, and even up to now, as an aspiring politician, to be very honest, allow me to say that they are role models that I look up to, but I do not have that kind of a person that I can always call each morning, each evening, and tell them, you know what, this is what happened today.
And this is what we lack.
Where do I go? And that is the gap that we need to bridge as young leaders, as women who want to impact the society positively, who want to motivate young girls and the youth in general.
Do you feel like as a society we lack that one-on-one touch with our leaders?
Yes, we do. And that is something that the Hope Avenue seeks to identify with. Okay? That is, you know, for example, Ram, maybe you are underprivileged. Maybe you don't have school fees, and then I come in and pay the school fees for you.
Yeah.
How will you get to school? What are the challenges that you meet, especially for the girl child? Look at the statistics today. Early childhood pregnancies
have increased.
Have increased. And when Magoha was talking the other day, he said that we are supposed to ban pornography in the country and what have you. But are those the challenges that we are facing today in the society?
Is banning pornographic materials going to help in this fight?
It might help, but in a very small percentage. I will give a very good reference to my own story. I had my baby when I was 13 years old, okay? Coming from Kwale County, 2,500 early childhood pregnancies today have been witnessed. Okay? Did these girls make themselves pregnant? Who are the players in this kind of a conversation?
It is not something that we need to
It is not a matter of pornography. It is about talking to the young girls. It is about providing the necessities that a girl child needs. Paying school fees for a girl child is not enough. What are the kind of challenges that a girl child faces on her way to school? What are the kind of materials that she needs to enable her sit in that classroom and pay attention to the tutor and actually perform well? Those are the kind of things that we are supposed to pay attention to.
Because paying school fees, in your view, you're saying it is not a sign that the child or the girl child will perform in class. In as much as you've paid school fees, there are other issues that can affect her that we have not yet handled.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Charlotte, I'm interested in finding out about your journey, especially when it comes to leadership. Tell us about how your journey has been in women leadership.
Well, given the underlying factors and where I'm coming from, I always say my past scares me. And
why so?
I've gone through it all. I've seen it all. And allow me also to thank the Friends for Life Foundation, who never gave up on me and who are still continuing to impact positively into the girl child's life, into the marginalized group's life. When I was growing up in the Msambweni constituency, I've been raised by a single parent who has struggled to make ends meet for me. And despite the challenges, I did not give up on myself as well. The environment was not so favorable, but I had people who looked at me and looked at the kind of motivation that I had. When I talk about my past scaring me, Ram, my mother used to live on a hand-to-mouth basis.
Is she still there?
She's still there. Yes, she's still there. And I want to make her proud. And I think I have so far.
I think you are.
And I think
from what you're saying,
yes,
something is cooking up.
Something is cooking up. And looking at where I was then, lacking motivation and lacking tangible mentors. I want to be that person in another person's life that no one was at the time when I was growing up. I never had let me call it tangible mentors in the place for me. So I used to see women in the likes of Charity Ngilu, in the likes of Martha Karua, and I wanted to be like them. I was inspired by them and the kind of movements that they were bringing forth. And I said, it doesn't matter where someone is coming from. And let me also talk about Naomi Shaban of Taita Taveta. She talked about many challenges. At some point she said they really threatened her when she declared interest in the parliamentary seat of Taita constituency. So I looked at what the people who set precedents for us, what they went through, and how they beat the barriers, and how they defied the odds, and what they achieved.
When you say that your past scares you,
yes,
what is it that is there that scares you, yet you still want to push on to your future?
I come from a very humble background. My dad passed on when we were very young, at a very tender age, but my mother kept pushing for us. Yeah. She is my greatest motivation. Looking at her and the kind of principles that she's fought for, the kind of a home she's tried to build around us, despite the outside forces, the negative forces that are trying to bring the girl child down. She's really tried her best. When I talk about my past scaring me, I grew up without a tangible mentor. I'll repeat that again.
Yeah.
A tangible mentor.
No one to call,
okay?
No one to talk to.
I had no one to call. No, I had people that I said, well, I want to be like this person. But was this person available?
No.
To keep in touch with, to share my problems with, and the kind of challenges that I was facing at that tender age? No, there wasn't. When I got pregnant at the age of 13, what are the kind of backlashes I got from the society? And looking at the numbers, 2,500 people, that means from 2005 from now, nothing has changed. And that is the gap I tend to bridge. And that is why I say my past scares me. I do not want to go back there. I do not want young girls or the girls my age to go through the kind of things that I went through then, the kind of disadvantages that I faced then. I want to be a mentor to people. I want to be that kind of a figure, of a mother figure, of a youth figure that a youth can look up to. Not only look up to, but can pick their phone calls and call me and schedule a meeting with me. We have a one-on-one so that I can motivate them. Information means you get someone from this point to another point, while in the same time giving them that message of hope and love. And that is what my movement, the Hope Foundation, tends to do.
I love that.
Yes.
Looking at the current debate that has been going on for some time now about teenage pregnancies.
Okay.
You've mentioned earlier moving someone from point A to point B, which is the true definition of leadership.
Yes.
How has it been for you at the age of 13 getting a child? Because you are a teenager there. What message would you have for a parent who is watching you, that teenager who is watching you, and who is now going through stress, not knowing what next? You've been there. What message would you have for them, and how was it for you?
We are still behind in terms of speaking to our young girls, especially in the marginalized societies.
Yeah.
And before I even talk to the girl child, I want to speak to civil organizations, okay? Please design programs that go into schools and speak to these young girls and try and talk to them. Not only telling them about, no, you're not supposed to have sex, you're not supposed to do this and that. Can you provide all the, I'm sorry to mention that, can we provide all these things that they need to see them through their childhood, to see them through their educational systems? And this is to the government. Paying school fees is not enough. What does this young girl need before she gets into a classroom?
Free education is not enough.
Free education is not enough. Let us speak to these young girls. And to that young girl that maybe found herself in this situation, okay, it is not the end of the road for you. It is never going to be. Live up to your dream. Fight for your space. Run your race. Do not give up. Do not give up. But before I talk to that young girl, can we as a society, can the government come in and bridge the gap? And not and make sure that this kind of things, because Ram, let me tell you, as much as I don't want to talk about how it happened or when it happened and why it happened, but let me tell you, it's not something that I'm proud of. Okay? You know, growing up, being as a teenager and then growing up to a youth and as a young woman, you tell someone that you're having a 13-year-old son and they're like, ooh, you started misbehaving early enough. They did not put
That's stigmatization.
That's stigmatization and
and
the PhD syndrome. I call it, it's called pull her down syndrome. You understand? And your fellow women are looking down upon you. Wanasema yule unajua alikuwa hivi, alikuwa anafanya hivi, lakini hapana. Angalia zile challenges mwanamke anapitia katika society. Msichana mdogo anapitia katika society. Ndiyo tunamlipia karo, lakini tunafanya kuna mikakati ipi tunayoweka katikati kuangazia ya kuwa tunapopeleka mtoto shuleni, amepata hiki, amepata kile. Kama ni mambo ya sanitary towels, tuhakikishe anapata. By the way, let me tell you. In the marginalized societies, do you know, vijana ama mababa kule wanatumia sanitary towels kuhonga mtoto wa kike kulala na yeye, na ndio maana watoto wanapachikwa mimba at an early age. Wengine wanaenda kujitoa, kujiuza kama njia ya kupata kipato, kupata chakula. Maanake kuna wengine pengine hawana wazazi, they are totally orphaned. Kwa hivyo ndio pale mimi nataka kuzungumzia civil organizations, serikali.
Inaweza kuwa ni ufukara.
Ufukara unachangia kiwango kikubwa. Angalia yale maeneo ambayo kidogo tunaita marginalized group societies. Ndio unapata pale early childhood pregnancies kidogo idadi zinapanda juu.
Wow.
And it's very sad.
And how is it possible for us to have a reduction in this number of cases? Tunaweza kuzipunguza?
It is very possible. It is very possible. Tuhakikishe tuna take care of the marginalized groups in our societies. Okay? Tuna provide hand-on skills, vocational trainings. Tunahakikisha kwamba tuna provide better health care, especially to women, because the majority of the bearers of the communicable diseases, hao ndio wanasafa sana sana katika early infant mortality and mortality rates katika society zetu. Kwa hivyo tunaangalia zile factors ambazo pengine zinaweza kuhinda wao kuinuka na kufight all these challenges ambao wanaweza kupitia katika society.
Lakini nina furaha because at the end of the day the joy is that you managed to pull through. And it has made you become the person you are today. And looking at how your story has been, umekuwa na historia nzuri sana kwangu, mimi naweza sema hivyo. Kwa sababu it has given you that enlightenment, that empowerment to be able to speak the way you're speaking. You are currently vying for a political seat in Msambweni constituency. But still, I would like to find out from you, what is it that you are going to offer, if given this position, that will stand out from what others have done in the past?
Thank you very much, Ram, for bringing up that issue. But again, I have to also let you know that I'm a civil servant.
Yeah.
And you know our code of conduct and what it pertains. So I wish to say that the seat has not yet been declared vacant officially. And I've also had a cry of members from my constituents from Msambweni constituency. Many people, the youth, the women, men, and across the board have really persuaded me to vie for that seat. So when the time comes, yes, I will. And should that happen, I will give priority to the empowerment of the marginalized groups. I think you can see how passionate I am.
That is being pronounced. You're passionate about it.
Yes, nimeisema sana. Na mimi, I want to empower the marginalized groups, in specific the women, the youths that are able and capable of doing so many things and impacting the society positively. Okay, and when I talk about women and the youth's empowerment, I did this in a 5-point agenda whereby you provide what we call educational entrepreneurship. You teach these people about business, social, economic, and financial skills, and then you also educate them about health issues. And you know, they say when you empower a woman, you empower the whole community. Manake mwanamke ni kama ukimpatia kitu hivi ni kama huwa anazalisha na zaidi. Okay, so we need to talk about also vocational skills, vocational skills and businesses. Ambapo I will bring in maybe the various ministries that are playing various roles in our government. Kusaidia kuleta ile elmu katika jamii. Kama ni elimu kuhusu ukulima, elimisha kuhusu yale unajua mwanamke anaweza kuwa anauza unaona mwanamke pengine hajapata ile kisomo especially wa mama zetu pale nyumbani lakini ukiangalia na run duka kwa mfano mamangu mimi akona duka lakini ukiangalia zile entrepreneurial skills zake zinafurahisha kwa hivyo yule mwanamke unapoenda unamempower zaidi unamwambia hivi ndio inafaa kufanyika unampatia access to microfinance unaongea na wale watu katika sekta ya benki wanakuja on board wanasaidia. And then another thing also, kutokana na ile CDF kiti, manake unajua mbunge akona ile legislative role, akona ile oversight role, na akona ile representation role. Kwa hivyo, ile katika, nitapeleka miswada definitely bungeni ya kutetea watu wangu wa Msambweni, ikiwa ule wakati utafika, manake bado. Lazima nitatetea watu wangu. Manake mimi nimejulikana kuwa msauti sana na kuzungumzia masuala, haswa ku-empower the marginalized groups katika society. Kwa hiyo, ile katika CDF kiti unajua 65% katika ile CDF kiti inafaa kwenda katika education.
Ndio.
Ile kurenovate madarasa, kujenga kama for example utajenga ma police post na ile nini, hiyo yote itafanyika. Lakini I want to stress specifically katika ile technical and voluntary educational schools pale. Tukiangalia idadi 78% of the students in the 2019 ambao waliscore B+ and above wali resort kuenda katika TVET education system. Hiyo inakwambia ya kuwa mayouth wetu saizi wanataka ile competency based education ambapo wataweza kusomea ile hands on skills ili waweze kuimpact positively katika society. Hapo pia ningependa kumwambia Bwana Magoha hivi. Tafadhali katika zile funds tupatie kipaumbele katika kujenga vitu kama hizi vocational training institutes. Manake universities zetu zisikuwe ni kama ndio pahali peke yake ambazo wanafunzi wetu ama watoto wetu ama vijana wetu wanaweza kuenda. Ndio kila mtu lazima aende. Na ukiangalia 78 is a good number. Ram. Imagine 78 B+. Ulipata marks ngapi?
Nilipata marks nzuri sana. Nzuri sana.
And natamani wakati huo mimi nikimaliza shule ningepata women leaders ama youth leaders ama watu wanajaribu kuhimiza. Unajua mimi niko na skills nyingi sana. Pengine wakati huo ningekuwa nimeingia katika zile vocational institutions.
Sasa acha nikuulize pale pale Kwale.
Ndiyo.
Ambaye we have Msambweni constituency ndani ya Kwale. I've taken a look at the composition of leadership that is there. In Kwale, we have 20 wards, sivyo? And in all these wards, there is no woman who was elected, even as a member of county assembly. The women leaders that we have there, wote ni nominated. Na ukiangalia hapo hivi, inabidi niulize, what is the challenge that you are facing, especially in Kwale County, or even as a nation, that we can see such kind of a number where we have no elected women, but we have nominated being the ones that are women being given the positions of nominated seats. How is it challenging, especially when it comes to taking leadership position in your own area?
Okay, before we dwell on that, let me appreciate the county government of Kwale, because looking at the gubernatorial seat, our deputy governor is a woman.
Yeah.
Okay? Something that does not cut across the 47 counties. So that is a plus.
That's
for
a
us
plus.
as women and for us as Kwale County, imetupatia jina sana. Na tukiona pale mama anafanya kazi. Na anajaribu kupaza sauti.
Anainua watu pale chini.
Anainua watu pale chini. Na ndio mimi nasema hivi. Wanawake waliojaliwa kukua katika zile nyadhifa tofauti haswa katika viti za kisiasa waliokuwa elected, wapaze sauti. Unapopaza sauti si kuzungumza tu, shikilia. When you identify a young woman that has leadership qualities, please hold her hand. Take her through the process, be her mentor, and make sure that she also is somewhere that you can be proud of. Na ndio maana nasema sisi kama wanawake tuwachane na ile pull her down syndrome. Desmond Tutu alisema, when you're neutral in the sides of injustice, okay, you've chosen the sides of the oppressor. Nilivyokuwa nazungumza jana na wanawake wenzangu katika forum fulani pale katika Facebook, watu walikuwa wanasema, unajua saizi wanawake tumeungana, lakini is our presence being felt?
Ilikuwa county community something.
Yes, Kwale County Development Forum. Kwa hivyo nasema, ndiyo tunapaza sauti, lakini tunasikika, tunataka tusikike kwenye ground. Wanawake ambao wamebarikiwa kukua katika zile nyadhifa tofauti. Tujaribu to identify hawa wasichana wadogo. Na ndiyo hatuna maybe MCAs wamekuwa elected katika viti pale, lakini kuna mama Hawa pale ambaye anavai. Wanawake ndio majority wa voters pamoja na youths. Tunataka we believe in our women. Wanapopigania zile ofisi, isikue ati sisi tunangojea ati katika ile 2/3 gender rule ambayo iko enshrined katika our constitutions. Na by the way, unajua in 2018 kwa sababu ya ule uchache wa wanawake katika bunge, waliweza kutupilia mbali ule mswada wa kuratify ile masuala ya gender balance katika bunge.
The 2/3 gender rule.
The 2/3 gender rule. Kwa hiyo wanawake walioko katika nyadhifa za kisiasa washikilie mikono na wale. Na pia wanawake wanaogombania viti. Tusiende tu ati pale tunataka kuonekana ati tunagombania. Tukue tunafanya research zetu, tukue tunaanza pale kwa ground. We empower these people, we motivate these people, tunafanya miradi, tunazungumza, tunapasa sauti, ndio pia tutachukuliwa serious.
Na ukiangalia pale Kwale, nominated no wanawake wanapewa position, lakini elected seats ni chache. Is it that support ambayo mnapewa, is the support very minimal Kwale?
Kama nimekuelewa vizuri, unajua wale wanawake, ndio maana hata tulipokuwa tunaanza conversation yetu tuliweza kuona kuwa katika wale wanawake waliokuwa nominated ambao ni 18 2013,
yes.
14 waliweza kuvai in elective post.
Ndio.
Na wakachaguliwa. Tunaelewana?
Okay.
Kitu inakosekana ni empowerment.
Sawa.
Political parties zetu, are they ready to embrace the 2/3 gender rule? Wanapigana kivipi kuhakikisha kuwa wanawake wako katika zile elective posts na ground iko vipi? Are they giving us a level fair play on the ground? That is not the case.
All right. Sasa, nikipenda tuweze kuguzia social media because people are sending in their feedback. Remember their hashtag on Twitter is Good Morning Kenya at Aguko and at KBC Channel 1. Let me head over to Facebook.
Naam.
Naona hapa kuna Jana Junior anasema KBC, thanks for your in-depth coverage on news and eloquent presenters. Ram, that lady is full of energy. And a good orator, mentor. She portrays the true African woman trying to liberate the society from the world's ills. Hongera kwake.
Asante sana.
Asante sana, shukran. Let me head over to Twitter and get your feedback on Twitter. All right, let me see. This is Richard Otieno anasema, I appreciate the vigor with which women are fighting for leadership space. However, we need to empower more women, especially in their education achievements. Additionally, our constitution should glaringly cushion our women from all manner of abuses in order to give them hope and security in realizing their dreams. Wacha tuguzie hapo hivi. Cushioning women against abuses. Wanawake kunyanyaswa, abuse, bullying, which reminds me of a case, because I had a friend of mine who vied for a seat, a lady, and when she was vying for the seat, she would come to give her story that she was asked one question, umeolewa. Women, suppression, especially when it comes to leadership, kunyanyaswa, being bullied, how has it been and how best can we fight this? Tukimaliza kipindi.
Let me tell you, Rame, when I was doing my research on the women that we have already on board, the women who have set precedents for all of us who are who are upcoming politicians and what have you, something took my interest, in specific Naomi Shaban of Taveta constituency. You know, when she was narrating the kind of bullying that she went through, imagine she mentioned that goons actually poured petrol around her home. She mentioned how her house help, how her son was almost kidnapped, and what have you. And that tells you that we still have a long way to go when it comes to women leadership and the kind of a framework that have been put in place for the empowerment of the same. I would wish to speak to IBC and the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. What are the kind of frameworks that are already in existence when it comes to empowering women to vying into these positions? Okay? Because the challenges are there. Personally, niliitwa slay queen. Niliambiwa, this one is just a slay queen that is coming to sell her looks. So it is there in our society. It's true that we still live in a patriarchal kind of a society. We need to change the norms and the beliefs that are already in existence. Women should be allowed to have a particular sense of style. Women should be allowed to be themselves, so to speak.
Not that when you speak for yourself, then unaitwa slay queen.
Or ukivaa heels vizuri hivi, umepaka makeup, umetengeneza kucha, prefer kuvaa kofia, maybe unaitwa slay queen. Tafadhali tuangalie katika zile michango au miswada ambao wanawake wanaowania nyadhifa tofauti katika viti za kisiasa na katika viti za leadership wanaoweza kuleta pale mbele. Tusiangalie muonekano, tuangalie anaweza ama hawezi. Tukirudi pale katika swala lako uliongea kuhusu setbacks na challenges, tunaona kuwa bado kuna a lot of slander, bado kuna a lot of hate speech, na political parties bado hazizingatii katika ile 2000 agenda. Ni role gani political parties inajaribu kuplay ili kuwezesha kuwa wanawake wanawania hizi nini? Ningependa propose the following. We can have IBC set very stringent rules ya kuwa in particular posts. For example, tukianzia katika pale viti ya presidency, tukikuja pale na by the way, wacha ni mention katika BBI agenda yetu ambayo kidogo rege iko on pause. Tunaweza kuona pale kwamba ilikuwa proposed kuwa candidate deputy governors wakuwe wanawake. That is a good thing. Lakini IBC inafaa kuangalia, na Registrar of Political Parties inafaa kuangalia wanawake wanawania katika viti vipi, na ni challenges zipi ambazo wanapitia. Kama ni resources in terms of finance, wanaingilia vipi? Office of the Registrar of Political Parties waangalie hata kama ni 30% ambazo zitaenda katika zile marginalized groups. Waone ile wanawake na wale vijana wengine ambao wanataka kuna uwezo lakini siasa ni pesa, hawawezi kufika katika kutimiza ndoto zao.
I'm looking for a time when women can be able to vie for a political seat, and they can get that seat based on what they are bringing on the table, based on their ideas, based on their ideologies. But looking at the current trend right now, wanawake wanapewa tu viti nominated, utapata mwanamke anapewa hii kwa sababu labda naeka huruma. Mbona tusiwe na fursa ambayo wanawake wanapewa ili waweze kuwania kiti ya uongozi kulingana na kila ambalo anaweka kwenye meza, what they are bringing on the table.
Wanawake wamejitokeza wengi na wanaoweza, si wanawake kujitokeza tu kuuza sura na kuuza vitu zingine, wanaoweza. Lakini the key players katika political systems yetu, ambapo nimetaja the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, IBC, wanachangia kiwango kipi? Wanawake wanapojitokeza, wabwenyenye pia wanajitokeza kule ambapo wameshikilia nyadhifa tofauti, wako na mihela zao. Society yetu ina play role ipi katika kuhakikisha wanawake wanawezeshwa? tunafaa kujua ya kuwa mwanamke anapoingia katika nyadhifa tofauti tofauti ako na nguvu na anaweza, na mwanamke ukimpa kidogo anaweza kukizalisha. Kwa hivyo sisi society inafaa kuembrace women leadership na ijue, tuangalie katika kuanzia katika nyumba zetu. Women ndio managers katika manyumba zetu.
Okay.
Kwa hivyo tunaanza na society, tunaenda katika key players katika political atmosphere, ambao ni for example IBC, au political leaders ambao wamekuwa pale. Wanawake wanapaza sauti vipi? Na wale wengine pia wanaovai. Umejitayarisha vipi? What is your gender to you people? I think tukiangalia yale masuala kidogo tutaweza kukweka ile level playground, lakini sana sana society tunataka to embrace women leadership, na hiyo ndio kitu mimi ningependa kusisitiza.
Alright. Acha tumalizie this discussion, and let me now find from you, what is your message to people watching you from Msambweni constituency?
I'll begin to talk about the service to humanity. Haijalishi uko wapi at that particular moment, ile kidogo uko nacho kitoe. Sizungumzi kuhusu hela, sizungumzi kuhusu pengine kupeana chakula tu. Wengine katika society yetu, especially the marginalized groups, wanahitaji zaidi ya kupatiwa tangible things. Wanahitaji kuzungumziwa. Washike mikono. Unapoamua kuwa unataka kumotivate the girl child, unataka kumotivate the youth, unataka kuempower women, be consistent. Washikilie mkono. Watoe kutoka point A, wapeleke kutoka point B. Na message yangu kwa the girl child and the young women and the youths, fight your fight, run your race, fight for your space. Eventually, you shall get there. It is possible and it can be done. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much. Shirley,
No.
it has been a pleasure. Nashukuru sana. And I wish you the best.
Thank you very much. Mbele iko sawa.
Mbele iko
Mbele
sawa.
iko bien. Mbele iko sawa.
That is Shirley Mariam. Very, 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 very glorious indeed. You have a lot of energy.
Thank you.
I hope that in future, even as you take leadership roles, as you take the country to the next level, we shall see a change when it comes to
Absolutely,
women.
absolutely. And thank you very much for giving me this platform, Ram.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to more and more of such healthy discussions in future. Ni invite sana na sana. Njia ikifunguliwa, unajua umenitoa jana ikabidi nimeniandikia barua nikakuja kutoka Kwale, lakini in future nataka kufika hapa kila siku nikizungumza na watu wangu. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Karibu tena. Remember, the hashtag as always is Good Morning Kenya. That brings us to the end of this morning conversation right here on The Viewpoint. We were talking about the space of women when it comes to leadership and in politics. Let's take a short break. After this break, we'll be back. We'll be sampling a few of your feedback. So many people are saying they're watching from different places. We'll be sampling them up even as we continue with this conversation. Remember, Doreen is still on the other side of studio preparing herself for the next discussion. Let's take this break. We'll be back in a bit.
Hamjambo Wakenya wenzangu, mimi ni Mheshimiwa Mize. Ninalotaka kuambia ni kuwasihi ya kwamba korona iko. Na ili tupigane nayo na tuishinde. Ukikohoa, tafadhali kama una ile ya kujifunika ile tissue, weka mkono hapa. Kama ni chafya yako atyo na itabakia pale pale. Kama ni kukohoa yako koholea hapo. Na nakwambia tukizingatia sheria na tuitii, hii korona tutaishinda na nchi yetu tutarudi kama kawaida.
The next episode.
Now I'm looking for work.
What a coincidence. I'm looking for someone intelligent and talented like you.
Wow.
Earrings belong to her mother, and they're worth a lot of money. More than...
Antonio. I'm sick and tired of living off your money.
And what do you plan to do?
Whatever it takes.
The remains of your parents will arrive from Mexico.
No, I don't want to see them. Please don't let them ask me to identify them.
No right to deny me on your ex-husband.
I didn't want to hurt him.
In love with Ramon.
All right, now let's take a look at what people are saying on social media. Remember the hashtag, as always, Good Morning Kenya. Now, Gilbert Kigen is saying, son of Gilbert Kigen, son of Betty, is watching from Kibirgat area, tuned in. I'm saying Warda Ella, anasema watching from Magarini. Vincent Kaji anasema kijana mpole TZ kutoka Kongangwa, mtaa wa Majengo Kahawa. TZ nikiwakilisha Wasakatonge, salamu kilabu kwa kweli na wafuatilia mwanzo hadi mwisho, tuko pamoja mpaka tamati wa kipindi. Na asante sana. Boniface anasema watching KBC, a veteran station in Kenya. Thank you very much, Boniface. Alan Kipngeno anasema watching from Bomet. I think the Senate must respect the work of MCS as oversight. I think that's in regards to what we were talking about in the headlines this morning. I'm seeing Moses Feston Dembele anasema, in your quest to empower women, please don't forget the boy child. They all need to be empowered for a better future. Thank you very much, Moses, for that. Gina Langu is saying, watching from Sambweni. Don't make my aspirant talk of my guru. All right. Let's get just one more on Twitter. I'm seeing Gladys anasema, watching you from Kisumu. This is Abdul is saying, watching us from Msambweni. All right. I'm seeing Wycliffe anasema, thank you very much KBC for that informative discussion, watching you from Kitale. All right. So these are just a few of your feedback. Remember, I cannot sample all of them, but we value your presence. Remember, Doreen is also on the other side of studio with more.
Well, that's amazing feedback there, Ram. And also just remember that you may need to keep engaging us even as we move to our next conversation. Tell us what you think about our discussion, your questions, and we'll be shooting them to our guests. But now it's time for our next conversation this early Wednesday morning, our focus being on teenage pregnancies in the wake of COVID-19. And so joining me on set this morning is Madam Sheila Mwavua, who is a clinical psychologist, as well as also just work as a HIV program manager. Madam Sheila, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing this fine Wednesday morning?
I'm okay.
Now, before we get the whole aspect of teenage pregnancies, which is our center of focus this morning, make us understand, when you work as a HIV program manager, what does that entail?
So thank you, Doreen, and thank you for having me on set today. So as a HIV program officer, our work entails a lot of things, and we work with all populations. But for this particular session, we want to talk about our adolescents. And when we look at our HIV programming, we have got quite a number of adolescents who are currently in care. And many of our adolescents who are HIV positive, you find that quite a considerable number got their HIV through mother-to-child transmission. So they were basically...
This is for the many adolescents?
Yes, for the many adolescents. But then we also have got quite a number that have gotten HIV through what we call horizontal transmission. So that one simply means that they didn't get it from their mothers, but they got it probably because of early exposures to sexual practices. And these sexual practices were not protected sexual practices. So we are grappling on how to work with them, because even as a program, we realize that adolescent period is a period of intense activity, because many of these children are growing into adulthood. So we are dealing with a young person who is transitioning from being a child into being an adolescent, and then later on become an adult. So you find for the ones that we are dealing with, they still need a lot of parental support, because many of them are still in school. A few of them have transitioned to universities, and therefore they are able to take care of themselves. But majority of these particular children are dependent on their caregivers.
On their caregivers.
Yes.
All right, now even as you work with adolescents, how is it cut out across? Is it across the country? Is it in specific areas?
For adolescents, when you look at it, it is across the country. Okay. But then when you look at the counties, you'll find there are counties which have got higher numbers compared to others. So for us in Nairobi, we have got quite a considerable number of them.
In Nairobi compared to different other counties?
Yes, and it's not just in adolescent programming alone, even in general population. So you find as the capital city, we have got quite a higher number of people living with HIV, which adolescent is part of the population. Yes.
Okay, now what makes Nairobi so peculiar? Because it's just a county like any other county anyway.
Yes, so I think it is just the conception of people. You remember even you when you're growing up in the rural setup, yeah?
Exactly.
So one of the things that you always looked forward to is traveling to Nairobi, because Nairobi used to be the green city. And then people tend to believe that there are more opportunities in Nairobi compared to others.
People still believe that?
Yes, and people still believe that. Even with devolution, you'll find that more people feel when you are in Nairobi, you are closer to power.
Chances of making it in life.
Yes. So that could be the driving force because of the many opportunities that Nairobi seems to have.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Sheila, even as you're having this conversation before we came on air, and you mentioned that you also mostly centered dealing with adolescents and even these teenagers in the informal setups.
Yes.
Why specifically those areas? Because teenagers are teenager anyway.
Yeah, so when we look at our adolescents, we won't say that many are concentrated in the informal settlement, but then when you look at the population distribution, you find that it is unfortunate that most of the numbers, you'll find that they are centered around the informal settlement. And one of the reasons could be because of the life that people live in Nairobi. You come in the city with high expectations, but because of one reason or the other, you find that probably where you'd want to live, you're not able to afford because of your income and other social-related issues. So you find many of these particular young people would end up in informal settlements. But then even in non-informal settlements, we have adolescents. But what is interesting is that the problems that an adolescent faces, regardless of where their social standing is,
or non-informal.
yes, they are basically the same. But how they cope with them or how they are helped to cope with them sometimes is what brings in the difference. Because a child who's grown up in an informal environment and a child who is grown up in non-informal environment, the way they are brought up, the way they are exposed will definitely be different. But the issues they face are basically the same.
So it's their upbringing that brings the difference.
Yes, and even the exposure. So that is what brings about the difference. So you find when you look at it from that perspective, there isn't so much that you can do to change that particular pattern. But now for us as people working in public health sector, it is always our responsibility to ensure that when it comes to health, we don't segregate. So whether you are in informal settlement or you are in non-informal settlement, then the health services that you are supposed to access are, are brought to you or are offered to you in a way that is responsive to your needs, and they are services that we say are of high quality. Because when we are able to meet your needs, then regardless of where you are,
At least your needs are met.
Yes.
Now, you said something which is very interesting, earlier on when you're just explaining that to us, especially when it comes to teens, that what brings the difference is the upbringing and the exposure.
Yes.
Break it down more.
So I would want to quote one of our modern psychologists, and his work has really contributed a lot to what we are currently experiencing and even working. So we have got this famous psychologist called John Bowlby. John Bowlby was a child psychologist.
Child psychologist.
Yes. And he looked at behaviors of children, and he clearly put it that when a child is born, how this child is nurtured will determine how better they perform later on in their lives. So when a child is born, the only communication the child has with the parent is through crying. So when your child cries, as a mother or a father, you respond to that cry, and you're able to, to find out, is it that my child is hungry? Is it that my child probably has soiled himself or herself? And therefore, you're able to do stuff that will pacify this child. So if it is hungry, when you give this child food, the child will keep quiet, and the child will be happy, and the child will be calm, and the child will feel safe. So the child starts developing, and they know, when I'm feeling like this, if I do this, my parent or my caregiver will respond. And therefore, as this child grows up, that connection, that attachment starts also growing. And therefore, as it starts growing, then the caregiver and the child kind of bonds. And therefore, as a caregiver, you will know when my child has got a problem or if they do not have a problem. And therefore, your child will also know that when I have a problem or I have an issue, then this is the person I have to run to because this person understands me. And it goes on up to the age of 4 years. So by the time the child is 4 years...
So this is when the child is still a toddler?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So by the time this child gets to 4 years, if they have continued growing in this environment where they feel loved, they feel safe, they feel secure, then their self-esteem starts growing. And therefore, by that time, when now you're exposing this child to the second environment, which is now school, whether it is, pre-unit all the way to upper primary, this child will be exposed knowing that I have got a firm foundation. So every time I have a problem, I'll always run home. And because of the interactions that the child has had at home, it becomes very easy for them to also interact with the other children and the school teachers. And therefore, you find the transitioning period becomes much easier. But now, if this child is taken to school very early and that bonding never happened, then you find by the time they are going to school, they find themselves thrown in a totally new environment where they have to start figuring out how to relate with other people.
And how to do life.
Exactly. And therefore, when that one continues, fast forward to the teen years.
Yeah.
So when you get to the teen years, because you didn't have a solid foundation, you didn't have someone that you can actually depend on and say, I have got a parent who loves me, who cares for me, who listens to me in case I've got a problem. I know I can always run to mommy or daddy. Then it becomes a problem because now they find themselves in an environment where they're experiencing new things.
Yes.
So emotionally, they are feeling this, they are going through changes physically, and then they are also developing intellectually. So at that particular time, if the family values and norms were not instilled, or if they were instilled, this particular adolescent is at a stage where they are trying to also experiment. So most of the adolescents, yes, so most of the adolescents at this particular time will actually reject whatever parental norms and values you have given them because they want to try out something new.
Yeah.
And
okay. Yeah,
yes.
Sheila, and I want us to come to those norms a bit later, but
Yes.
you've really talked so much about and breaking down for us, but you've also said again something very interesting, that there's a missing bond, or if I may say a missing link. Could this be what is attributing to the high cases of HIV infections among teenagers and even this early teen pregnancies? That missing link?
I would say in a way, yes.
In what way?
In the sense that, you see, when you get to adolescent stage, as I mentioned, you're going through a lot of changes, physically, emotionally, and most of the time at that particular time, if this teen has not been, informed or has not been taken through the steps that they need to know when these changes are happening, and they have got no one that they can open up and ask questions or share whatever they are feeling, then it becomes really difficult for them to know who to run to. So what happens at that particular time? This particular time, this child, if they didn't have a firm foundation and if they didn't feel the love or they felt the rejection, then they feel alone. So when they are feeling alone, the only other alternative is that I need to reach out to my peers. So they will tend to look for peers who probably are experiencing the same issues they're experiencing. And therefore, if they get a peer who is experiencing the same, it just reinforces the rejection and the lack of confidence they have in the structures around them. So what will they do? They'll ask the peer for a solution to the problems they have. And that is the time when you find it is very easy for this particular teen to fall to peer pressure. So you will do it because you want to fit, and because this is, yes, and because you've rejected whatever you knew from the beginning, you're trying to carve out a new way of living for you. So this teen or this peer that you are seeking solutions or advices from also does not have the solutions to your problems.
They're just going through the same things that you are going through.
Yes. So what will they tell you? They'll think of, quick fixes. And that is the time now when people feel manipulated. And these teens, they find themselves in situations whereby probably they've been exposed. And if you've listened to what the media has been sharing, some of the stories from the adolescent, they'll tell you, it is my friend who invited me here. And then one thing led to the other. Before I knew it, I was pregnant.
And they'll say, I don't know what happened.
Yes.
Things just went so quick and so fast.
And then I was, kicked out of school. Or my mother took me to the hospital and I was told I was pregnant. So I've got no idea.
Or I had this infection.
Exactly. So those are some of the things that usually happens when these norms are not instilled at an early age, and if these norms are not reinforced on a day-to-day basis. So when children get to this particular stage, they get confused. And if they don't have a stable person that they can always run to, then you find a lot of negative things come in. And therefore, their self-esteem will also go low.
Will also go low.
Yes.
Wow, that's really interesting, Sheila. But also just coming to you as someone who works in the public health office, how would you say your experience has been working with these teens or even adolescents in the informal setup, especially when it comes to HIV and even teen pregnancies?
So thank you for that question. Our experience has been very vast, because remember, this child is growing up in an informal settlement where there is scarcity of basically everything. So when it comes to accommodation, sometimes you're forced to fit into a very small space. Then when it comes to the daily needs and upkeep, it is a struggle. So most of them will give you their life experiences of how sometimes they are forced to actually go without meals, and sometimes the basic needs that they need are not really available, and some of them are actually forced to work. And sometimes because work is not available, many of the young girls will find they end up into early sex, because that is the only work that they can do at that particular. Yes. And therefore, when they are engaging in these activities, to them, they are looking at it as a way of survival. And therefore, even if they are aware, because some of them will find they are aware of the consequences of these particular actions, but then they tell you, yes, I'm aware, but under my situation,
what will I do?
What will I do? You see? So the question here comes to us as individuals. What can you as Doreen do? What can I as Sheila do? What can probably a parent back at home do?
So does that dispel away the question of this is entirely up to the government and stakeholders
Definitely.
to ensure? Okay.
Definitely it does. Because the teenage pregnancies and what is happening currently is not a one person
It's
issue.
not about the government, because
Yeah.
oftentimes they say, the government needs to come into this place.
Yes.
They need to see how best they can help people in the informal setup so that they don't engage in such activities.
Yes. So it's not about the government, it's about all of us. So it is collaborative.
Individuals.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has to be a collaborative effort. So when you start asking yourself as a person, what can I do to change what is currently happening? And even the adolescent is empowered in a way that they can ask themselves, what can I do as an adolescent to avoid myself getting into this particular situation? Then this conversation will get much easier, and therefore people will put, heads together and say, we need to focus on the problems. Because as long as I'm staying in this environment where I cannot get my basic, needs met, then the only alternative thing that is there for me is probably selling sex. Then why not? So if I do that and I end up pregnant, then when I'm pregnant, then there's also a higher chance that I would have acquired HIV. And then when that one happens, what happens to the society? So it becomes a vicious cycle. So it starts with all of us looking at it and asking, as a society, where have we gone wrong? Where did the rain start beating us? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Sheila, that's a very pertinent question. Just coming away from asking the government all the time and coming to down to us as individuals on the question of what can I do, me as a person, without looking and without apportioning blame. But just sticking with these people in the informal setups, even if, just looking at this example whereby, yes, what can I do? This is what I can do, but I don't have the means. Then what kind of activities can these teenagers engage into so that they devoid their mind from thinking of this is the only solution?
So that is also a very pertinent question.
Yes.
And I think as Nairobi County and as stakeholders in this whole situation, we are also asking ourselves, what can we really do to ensure that our adolescents stay in school and they are able to go through life processes in a way that we expect them to do. So the first thing is that we need to look at programs that address some of these issues from the house. And therefore, as
from
parents,
the home, that
yes, from the home. So as parents, what role can they play? So if all parents were to just look at it and acknowledge, these are our children. These are not other people's children.
They're not children of that school.
Exactly. So if this is my child, as a parent, what is my role? So my role as a parent, I'm the primary teacher, because you cannot expect the teacher who has not grown up with your child to be the one teaching your child things that you as a parent, you're supposed to be teaching. So if parents took up their responsibility seriously, you stop abdicating duties to the house girl and other people.
To everyone to manage your child.
Exactly. So as a parent, do you understand your child? So if you do not understand your child, how do you start understanding them? So where did you lose your child? So parents have to consciously look at it and ask themselves, do I have a relationship with my child? Because you cannot expect someone to understand your child when you as a parent don't understand your child. So if parents can start from there, understand your child. This is the time to reach out to your child, talk to them. Stop being a parent up there. Go down to the level of your child and find out what is it, what are the issues that my child has. And if these issues sometimes seem to be petty or seem to be out of place, don't just dismiss them. Because those small things that sometimes we tend to dismiss as parents are the ones which bring bigger things. So if you get to a level where you go down to the level of a child, try to understand them, answer their questions, allay their fears, they need information, give them information. Then you find that is where we need to start. So that will be the first step. Then when it comes to school, there's been debate over sex education. A lot of debate. So I think as stakeholders, when the parents are doing their part at home, then the teachers will reinforce what the parents have taught their children at home. I know many of the parents would feel uncomfortable doing that because they'll tell you, during our times when we were growing, nobody really told us about these things. But look at your times and these times.
Things have changed.
Things have changed. So what is it that worked during your time that you can actually borrow and infuse it into what is working now? and try to see how do I make the old and the modern, you know, strike a balance and work. And then now from there, when the teachers come in, it becomes very easy. As public health officers, we are looking at our adolescents, especially those ones who are HIV positive, and we're also looking at those ones who are not HIV positive. How do we provide information related to health? So we are looking at information about HIV. How do we tailor this information so that these adolescents can reach this resource information, so that if an adolescent talks about HIV, at least they have got information that they can read through and get answers, and they are able to even reach out to someone that they need to talk to about HIV-related issues. When it comes to how do I prevent myself from getting it, and now when we talk about prevention, then the church also comes into the picture and says we cannot talk about contraceptives, we cannot talk about condoms, but let's face the reality.
Saying it's like this is a way of telling them it's okay to go and do it.
Yeah, so we are not encouraging it, but then we are saying let's face the reality.
This is what is happening.
A problem. Yes, this is a problem. For those ones who've not gotten to that particular stage, what can we do to prevent them from getting there? Okay. Therefore, education is very critical, ensuring that they have the correct information from valid sources, and that information starts from the house, goes all the way to school, and even goes all the way to other platforms where they go to. Number two, we are saying, for those ones who are already in this particular situation, what is it that we can do? So if I'm HIV positive, I'm an adolescent, and I want to engage in early sex, what do I need to do? And that one takes me back to the question I said, we need to ask ourselves, what can I do as an individual? So you find these ones who are coming to our health facilities, we teach them that HIV is transmissible. So if you can abstain, abstain. If you cannot abstain, then you need to use protection. So how do you use protection? So we talk to them about sex education, we talk to them about condoms for those ones who have gotten pregnant. If I've gotten pregnant at 13, 14.
Yeah, as a teen.
Yes, as a teen. When I come to the health facility, I need to access services. So am I going to look at you and say, you are a teenager, you're not supposed to be here, you're supposed to be in school, but you are here now with a baby.
What is happening to you?
So at that particular time, I need to look at you as a teen and ensure that the services I'm offering you are responding to your needs. And therefore, this particular teen, as we are educating them, we'll also talk to them about contraception, because if you don't, there's always a high chance next time you see this particular teen, they'll come back pregnant again. Yeah, so what do you do?
Or even the third time.
Yes, yeah, so we need to look at things, you know, we put the emotions aside, just be objective and ask ourselves. For the bigger population of teenagers who have not gotten into this, what can we do to make sure that we help them not get to this particular level? But for those ones who are already in it, what programs can we do? So we are talking about education, we are talking about ensuring that the services they need are provided and are affordable to them, because many of them might not be able to afford, and therefore in our public sectors we offer these services for free. Then we're also ensuring that these services are closer to them, so that if a teen feels that I need these services, they don't have to travel a very long distance.
They can be able to easily access them.
Then we're also ensuring that the healthcare providers, when they meet these young mothers or these teens in the facility, our attitude towards them has to also change, so that we are seeing an individual who has come for a service. And therefore, if I'm able to meet their needs, then that one adds value. And therefore, as we are doing that, we are also talking about counseling programs, whereby these children, some of them have gone through very traumatic situations, because someone might have gotten pregnant because they were raped or something happened. So what programs do we have? So at our health facilities, we have got robust counseling programs where these adolescents are actually being reached with messages and just trying to help them recover.
Proper counseling.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, just for the benefit of our viewers, I'm still speaking to Sheila Mwavua, who is a counseling psychologist, talking to us about the rise in cases of teenage pregnancies, especially in the wake of COVID-19, and what are the possible causes of that, and also how we can avoid and evade that. Now, coming back to you, Sheila, earlier on you had also mentioned that it is important for parents to be able to know their children, because you can't expect the school or the teacher to be able to do that more than you do.
Exactly.
But again, there's that question of a parent that I'm hustling. I'm looking for how this child can survive. I'm looking for their basic needs. I'm looking for money for their school. How do we draw that line?
Yeah, I know that is a very difficult scenario that
Yes.
many parents find themselves in. But in life, we always say we need to prioritize. Yes, it is good to look for money. It is good to, to provide as a parent. But then if you're not there, if you're not finding time
Yes.
to be with your child, then at the end of the day, yes, you will provide. But then the question that you will ask yourself later, whom am I providing these services for?
Yeah.
Because when this child is no longer there, or if this child is
Has
there
been lost into
and
the
has been
world.
lost, then you would ask yourself, I wish, the I wish questions keep on
Regrets
coming.
question.
Yes. So what we are saying, however busy we are, we need to create time to be with our children. For instance, there will be parents who wake up very early in the morning and then they come back very late in the evening. But then over the weekend, we have got those ones who are working, but we have got those ones who don't work over the weekend. So you look at your schedule from Monday to Friday. What time can I create? And all you need is not a whole hour, it's just a few minutes. You see, when you come home and you tell yourself, the moment I get home, the first thing I want to do, even if I am as tired as what, I want to, find out from my children how their day was.
If they were in school, how was
Yes,
school
how
today?
was school, what did they go through and stuff like that. It is a habit you create. When you create that habit, it becomes a routine. And therefore, when it becomes a routine, you will not struggle finding time to be with your children. Therefore, if you make it a habit that when you come home, these children grow up knowing every time our parents come home, we have got probably 5 minutes or 10 minutes of just talking.
So even if the children feel like they are busy with
Yes.
homeworks, they know that this time
Yes.
is created for me and mom. This
Yes.
is the time for me and dad.
Exactly.
Okay.
And when you have got a strong foundation and your children know that you're actually their friend, apart from being their parent, you are their friend. You see, a friend, sometimes you don't need to book an appointment with a friend.
Any day.
Yeah, anytime.
That's how free and comfortable
Exactly.
you are.
So if we create these barriers, work, money,
I'm very
and all
busy,
that, I'm
yeah.
very busy, then we lose our children. Or when they're asking you something and you're saying, I'm too busy, I'll talk to you later, and you forget doing that, they will try the second time, the third time, and then after that, they will look for someone who
For
has got time for
alternative.
them. Yes. And that someone who has got time for them will be probably someone that you wouldn't want them to associate with.
Exactly.
You see? So that's why I mentioned that it is our responsibility. The onus of all these things lies on a parent. So if a parent finds time to get to understand their children, and even now during this COVID, as much as COVID has brought us a lot of negative issues, but then when you look at it, there is a silver lining in all of it. For the last 3 months, we've been home with our children. So this is the time to actually get to understand who are these children
Yeah,
of
but
mine.
Sheila, children have been home with their parents,
Yes.
but just like they were having this conversation also earlier,
Yes.
is that home needs to be that safe place.
Yes.
Home needs to be a secure place.
Yes.
So yes, it's been 3 months and even more of being in the same space, parents and children, but still the cases are rising, and one would wonder, is home still again that safe place?
So that one also comes back to what we said.
Yeah.
How have we built this home for our children?
How conducive is that home?
Exactly.
Okay.
And for a home to be conducive, you don't need a mansion. You don't need, all those things that people think about. Even in that small shack that you live in. Because when you even go to these informal settlements, you
Yes.
find parents who are very happy with their children.
And they are okay.
And they are okay. Why? Because they have a strong foundation. These children feel safe and loved regardless of whatever issues are around them. And therefore they know this is our situation. But out of this worst situation, we can make something really good out of it. So it is not about, because I can't provide, blah, blah, blah. So you look at, the negatives that the whole situation has
It's all
provided. So when you just step back and ask yourself, what are the positive things that this situation has
You
provided?
look for that silver lining that
Exactly.
you're saying.
Yes. You will find it is there. So we have got parents who've done really great during these periods. They have learned, they have had to relearn their children. So the children that they thought they had, now during this time they are seeing, you know, their children have grown, they have become bigger, because sometimes as parents, we tend to have this image in our mind. You know, my child, probably you're looking at that child when they were 4
Ni
years.
mtoto bado, hata amefika 13,
Yes.
bado ni mtoto wangu tu.
Exactly. But now when you are talking to them and they are talking back at you and you're engaging with them, then you start understanding this
They are
child is growing. And therefore, because this child is growing, there are a few things that I need to also get adapted to. And therefore, as a parent, how do I help my child grow in a much better way? So unless we start doing that, we will continue having these problems.
Same cases.
Yes.
So basically what you're saying, that it's important for people to know, and also parents to know priorities.
Yes.
In as much as they are busy, in as much as they're going outside to look for money and hustle, it is important to be able to draw that line.
Yes.
That this is my priority now, this is what I need to do now, and also ensuring that they make home that conducive
Yes.
and safe environment for their kids as
Yes.
well. Okay, now, also as we talk about the causes of these high cases of teenage pregnancy, another question that always comes to mind is poverty. From your perspective, how is that so?
Yeah, poverty contributes a lot, and across the country, you will hear that young girls, they are finding themselves engaging in early sex because of one reason or the other. And most of the girls will tell you, probably I was not able to get sanitary pads. You know, sanitary pads
And that is
a
always
very
a question every time.
Yes, it's a very simple thing. When you look at it, you are like, just a sanitary pad, but you see, to this particular girl,
It's very important.
it's very important. So if we are staying in a situation whereby nowadays even our sources of income have really gone low.
Yes.
So if a parent has hustled and gotten 100 shillings in a day, so between buying the girl sanitary pads
and getting food,
yes, which one is a priority?
yes, they will go for getting food,
Yes.
because you can't sleep hungry and have sanitary
Exactly. So you find poverty contributes a lot to many of these things that we are having. And many of these girls, because they're young girls, when you look at them, what else can they do? So the only easy
Just
way
sex,
is
engaging
just sex. And therefore, if you try once and you're able to get some few coins, then the possibility of trying it a second and a third time also increase. And therefore, when they increase with time, we find these girls think sex is the only thing we can do to actually meet our needs. Therefore, what we are saying that unless we address this issue of poverty and poor socioeconomic setups, we'll continue having these problems. Therefore, we need to look at ways of empowering people. So if people have got issues with, with how they can get their day-to-day living, how do we empower them so that they are able to at least get something? For the girls, how do we ensure that they get the simple basic needs that they need? And as we are doing that, how do we also empower them in terms of educating them on what they need to do? So those are some of the things that we need to look at. And if we don't do that, then as poverty rises, then these cases will definitely rise.
So it's a question of empowering, learning
Yes.
how best to empower these young people, and most especially the young teenage
Yes,
girls.
yes.
Okay, and again, also there's that other question of early marriages, and this will go to probably the parents.
Yes.
What can they do to avoid indulging their teenagers into early marriages? Because then again, also that leads to early teen pregnancies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for early marriages, you find we come from different cultures.
Different backgrounds?
Yes, and different backgrounds. So you find it has got a lot of cultural connotations. So there are cultures which will tell you, we've done this since time immemorial. So it means having to re-educate the community. And I think there are a lot of programs which are trying to do that. It is something that will take time because it is a practice that has been there for a very long time. But then you find with these programs that are in specific areas trying to just mobilize communities and tell communities about the disadvantages of having these girls married early, we are seeing some results. And slowly, people are trying to change their mindsets about it. So poverty is also one of the driving forces, because when you talk to the parents of these particular children, they'll tell you, I wouldn't want to do that, but because of 1, 2, 3 needs, I just had to do it.
I just had to do it.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, so when you look at poverty, poverty has got very many dimensions. And therefore, until we start by empowering young adults, and in Nairobi, for instance, we have got programs that are empowering girls.
Okay.
And through that, we are seeing a lot of changes in the community, especially the informal settlements.
Right.
Yes.
That was very profound, Sheila.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time, and at least for explaining to us the causes of teenage pregnancies and how we can evade that.
Yes.
That was Sheila Mavua, clinical psychologist, talking to us about that. But for now, I want us to cross over to live on location, where the CS Education Professor George Magoha is giving a presser on matters education. Let's just cross over there and listen in.
The schools are a bit congested, and that whatever is going to determine whether we open or not would depend on whether social distancing can be achieved in school. So we have reached a consensus. It is not my place to tell you which consensus we have reached, but in good time, the owner of the process will inform you which consensus we have reached. Is there any question? If there is no question, ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this meeting was to tell you that we are consulting. This is an all-inclusive process. So that by the time His Excellency the President makes a pronouncement about one or two things, it will be an informed pronouncement. And it will basically be on the basis of, my brother Maio here has been networking with all the parents. They have ways and means of networking with all the parents. And the position of the parents has been very firm that we don't open until we achieve stability, which means until the curve is flattened. And in my view, the parents are one of the major stakeholders. We had a meeting with the governors, which perhaps has already gone public some 2 weeks ago, where the governors said very clearly that they will not open, they will not allow schools to be open until the curve is flattened, and so on and so forth. So ladies and gentlemen, since you have no questions, can I say that that is all I wanted to let you know, that we have been consulting and we shall continue to consult unless there is something you want to additional that you want to hear. But by Monday, the 6th of this month, His Excellency the President, who is the owner of the process, will make certain pronouncements which will be advised. Thank you. See you in Sawa.
That is the CS Education Professor George Magoha just giving a presser there on the state of education in the country, and he says that they are still consulting. Remember that there were issues concerning the reopening of schools, whether it should be in September or not, but he has just put it very clearly that until the curve is flattened. However, he still continues to mention that they are still in consultative talks. But remember that also that is a story that we'll continue to follow up for you and see how that develops even in the course of the day. But for now, that is how we wrap it this morning on Good Morning Kenya. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of the same show. Have a good morning. My name is Doreen Arangi.